I think Dev is waiting to get in, but I don't know how Streamlabs works.
What's up, Dev?
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Hello.
That's okay. So, Aiden, as you were saying about
Adam, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Where's the incentive for the elective to rule well?
The incentive for the elected to rule well is to stay in office. All leaders, all elites are chiefly focused on maintaining their own position. In order for
Their own power.
Right, exactly. In order for in order for monarchy to work, you have to deny that that's a part of human nature. You have to deny that people are self-interested and want to get ahead, and that there will be challenges to a person in power. I mean, the people in power, their chief concern is maintaining that power. The incentives are completely misaligned with your position, Spoon, because if I am in control, if I am supreme leader, I am going to be very worried about smart, industrious people coming to power. One of the reasons why places that are autocracies don't have a lot of innovation and a lot of, forward thinking is because
this is fundamentally incorrect, but continue.
Well, if listen, the richest man in Russia was a businessman that Putin had arrested and thrown in jail, and he basically expropriated all of his money. So if you see that, if you see, hey, if I'm going to be the next Elon Musk, I could end up in a jail cell. What is your incentive to be the next Elon Musk?
Well, because that's actually not that has not been the case though in monarchies. In fact, if you look at the history of monarchies, you find that some of the greatest statesmen, if not the greatest statesmen that have existed, and philosophers that have existed throughout human history, have come about as a product of monarchy because they are raised up
monarchy,
there's advisors to the monarch.
There's just as many examples in history of monarchs stifling innovation. The Queen of England basically told the guy who invented the Louvre to fuck off and die because everyone was working sewing clothes together. Yeah.
The Louvre? You mean the thing that was gifted to the people by the French monarch, who ended up putting all of the royal gallery in there for the benefit and well-being of the people.
There's plenty of examples in the book Why Nations Fail of monarchs stifling innovation, that innovators have come to the monarch and said, listen, I have this new innovation, and the monarch says, well, this innovation would challenge my power. If the people are not working,
also
stitching fabric by hand, then they'll be more likely to revolt. So let's not move in that direction. So
we're running into a kind of a problem here where there's claims that are being made about like democracy will inevitably lead to this, monarchy will inevitably lead to that, right? Mm-hmm. And pretty much no matter what you say, you're going to have examples, but we need to be a bit more precise, right? Like if you're going to make a claim about monarchy, I'm curious, what percentage of the time would we observe this if we look at the history of monarchies? Or what, how likely would this be if we observe monarchies today? Because I believe a statement has been made something to the kind of like, democracy will inevitably lead to tyranny. Well, that has happened, but there are also lots of democracies that have not led to tyranny, right? So
right,
yeah. But all of the dictatorships of the 21st century have come from democracies. All of them. Besides
sure, but that doesn't mean
the one that I said about in Italy. That's the one example.
There's two stable states of government, Aiden: autocracy and democracy.
See, I think that's
they can oscillate back and forth. You're taking the position of autocracy. You're just calling it monarchy.
No, but you, if I may, I think that by truncating down, okay, I understand the use of using the word autocracy, but to differentiate from democracy. However, I think that's incredibly simplistic to pretend that all autocracies are equal. For example, in the Dictator's Handbook, he defines autocracy as being both a military junta and a dictatorship and a monarchy and a CEO. But the way that those rule are completely different. A CEO works to maximize profit for his shareholders. A CEO is not well suited to kill his shareholders as a dictator might be for those who get a bit too out of place. these are particularly a dictator and a military junta both arise from power from the people. A monarch and a CEO arise from self-power by mandate from outside of the people.
Well,
How they rise to power and how they stay in power are completely different things. So they're talking in terms of maintaining a power base.
There's something that we should probably clear up. So let's say that hypothetically, I have, ultimate power to decide what goes on, right? And I go to a country and I turn it into a monarchy. Now, so it is a monarchy now, but there's the question of how does that maintain itself, right? So how does a monarchy deal, for example, with someone who doesn't believe in the God of the monarch? Or how would a monarchy deal with a population that doesn't respect the mandate of heaven, or whatever it is that you're saying allows the monarch to basically derive ultimate power? What happens when the population doesn't respect that?
I think, typically speaking, the monarch wouldn't care. Then I guess you would leave. But that their right is manifest, inherent. If you choose not to respect it, you choose not to respect it. You could say you don't believe that the president's legitimate, don't you? I mean, like, absolutely. What do you do when half the population thinks the president's not legitimate in the United States? Just comparatively.
We have a power sharing system set up. So the next election is right around the corner.
Well, the entire, a huge premise of your argument is that a monarchy is going to be more stable, which relies upon people respecting the rule of the monarch, right? Through the mandate of heaven. And if that doesn't happen, it seems like that stability. Yeah.
Doomer, I don't know that we're arguing over stability here, because the dictatorships and democracies tend to be as stable as one another. Dictatorships can devolve in dictatorships. You're trying to work towards democracy. I mean,
even the dictator's handbook says democracies are less stable, essentially, because they have more people move in and out.
Well,
he specifically mentions that
this is why I want to be careful. This is why I want to be careful around the term stability, because North Korea is very stable. I don't know if I want to live there. Okay, I don't know that stability is a good metric for us to be focusing on. That's why I'm saying, okay, I would much rather live in a place that had a good quality of life and was stable than a place that was a terrible hellhole, but it was stable.
What do you define as unstable?
Yeah, that's my problem with the word stability. Listen,
what is
Saddam Hussein stayed in power for 30 years. The power base was very stable. I mean, there wasn't going to be a change of power.
He's also not Christian, though.
It seems like Adam's definition of stability is just the length in which a government is maintained. So
and also exactly. There's a peaceful transition of power, a transition of power that is not going to wildly throw your economy and your populace into chaos, not going to result in civil wars. What's that?
Give it a year. I'm just using your current government as an example.
Well, this is not an argument in favor of democracy. I mean, or of monarchy.
Joke, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand your argument in favor. I mean, you seem to be agreeing with me that the small coalition versus the large coalition. I mean, democracies have a sort of power sharing thing going on.
No, the large coalition is completely worthless. That's a bad argument. The large coalition is completely worthless. That's a
the
bad
large
argument.
coalition is completely worthless.
Yeah, well, that's your position. But Adam's only point was that you were agreeing definitionally as
okay. Here's the reason I found the dictators one rather funny with the large coalition. If you have someone in government or trying to run, they will say whatever they need to do to get elected and promise all kinds of crap. So you're going to attract the wrong kind of person in power. Once they're in power, they may not enact the will of the people in case.
And then they can be voted out. Yes, but in your situation, that doesn't happen.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead, Spoon.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, as far as who is attracted to the power of that particular moment, and as far as trying to keep the large coalition, let's say you enact the large coalition, the will of the large coalition could be really, really stupid. And then the other people who are not fans of it vote them out. But all the damage that is done by the one person enacting the will of the large coalition still is there when the next person comes into power. That's the problem. Like,
it's
you
very
can say
rare. It's
you're
very rare
spending a
for
lot.
things that are enacted under a democracy to go backwards, and under a monarchy. So once you
Okay.
put things in place, you better have a good idea that they're going to be good. And generally speaking, what the large coalition, what the majority of people want, is not really necessarily what's good for them. If you look
Yes.
at the intelligence of the average person, and not just intelligence, let's talk about their knowledge of statescraft, right? It's extremely low. 40% of Americans don't know who America fought against in World War II, for example.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter that the people who are asking,
they're
Okay,
not
well-
crafting policy. They're the
But they're
whole
demanding
point of
policy.
democracy.
But they're demanding policy.
That is
But
good
let me-
for them. That appeals to their own self-interest. Here, let me read
But
a
their own
little section of
self-interest
this
is
just so I
funded by
can.
somebody else. That's the problem.
Let me read this, because there's a technical aspect of here that I just don't know how you get past with monarchy. Okay, this is a section from Dictator's Handbook. So, in a democracy or any other system where the leader's critical coalition is excessively large, it becomes too costly to buy loyalty through private rewards. The money has to be spread too thinly. So, in a small coalition situation, in order to maintain power, you're really buying loyalty of the people that are keeping you in power. That becomes an untenable situation in a democracy.
Does it?
So you're really
what's
focused
the
on.
American debt?
Let me finish.
Sorry.
So you're really focused on providing good public policy for, if Trump was elected by 70 million people. So you're focused on providing good public policy for 70 million people, and you're either going to deliver those policies or you're not going to deliver those policies. And if you're not going to deliver those policies, you're no longer going to be in office. But so continuing with Dictator's Handbook. So by contrast, dictators, monarchs, military junta leaders, and most CEOs all rely on a small set of essentials. As intimated by Machiavelli, it is more efficient for them to govern by spending a chunk of revenue to buy the loyalty of their coalition through private benefits, even though these benefits come at the expense of the larger tax-paying public or millions of small shareholders. Thus, small coalitions encourage stable, corrupt, private goods-oriented regimes. The choice between enhanced social welfare or enriching the privileged few is not a question of how benevolent a leader is. Honorable motives might seem important, but they are overwhelmed by the need to keep supporters happy, and the means of keeping them happy depend on how many need rewarding. So we're talking about the power base that keeps whoever is in charge. So
Sure.
you have a technical, let me just lay it out here so everyone can understand it. So you have a technical issue here where if you are a leader, whether you're a dictator or a monarch or a elected official, your chief concern is maintaining your position. Now, in a democracy, your position is to make, 100,000 people, 70 million people, whatever level of the democracy you're at, your goal is to keep that many people happy. Well, you can't just buy those people off because you don't have the resources to do that. You're literally forced to work on public policy that is going to help a large number of people. In an autocracy, in a dictatorship, in a monarchy, you're focused on half a dozen dudes that are keeping you in power. And not only that, the incentives to put somebody that could end up in your bedroom slitting your throat close to you is not good. You're more incentivized to keep loyal dum-dums in those top positions than to bring anyone smart to the top who could be a rival competitor monarch.
Okay. So, first of all, one of the things that happens in democracy is the diffusion of responsibility. So you said, for example, that you can't just, if I may, that you can't just pay off those people. You said instead you have to engage in public policy. Correct. You can't pay off the normative coalition, but you do. You do pay them off. Public policy, which
yes, you do. There is a quid pro quo. Yes, my argument is that people are self-interested. Yes, my whole argument is that people are self-interested.
It's by taking people's money and redistributing it to them.
It's a power sharing thing. But if you want to go into those numbers, the monarch, in order to maintain power, you think he's out there tilling the fields? No, he's taking your money away from you to pay off the people that he needs to maintain loyalty to him. They go into this in the dictator's handbook, and the taxes in autocracies is double what they are. Listen,
actually, that's not true. And
tax cuts.
I have the statistics on that. Actually, let's go into the numbers.
Tax cuts. Listen, tax cuts are a huge boon to getting reelected. Politicians love to give out tax cuts.
Okay, so interest rates.
Do tax cuts work for getting people elected?
I think raising taxes on the rich is a far more powerful slogan for re-election than cutting taxes ever will be.
But
it doesn't matter. Republicans use one.
A monarch is never going to run. A monarch doesn't need to run on cutting taxes. A monarch doesn't need to run on raising taxes. A monarch does whatever they want.
Why do you think the monarch's incentive is to be a complete tyrant?
Because that is what it takes to stay on top. I didn't
not
invent
if you're born into it. You're already You're not going to lose it.
You're the one ignoring human nature. You're the one telling me, oh, in this world, there are not going to be people who are motivated to snipe at you from below, to cancel culture your ass, to fucking take your spot.
It's pretty difficult to cancel. I mean, how are you going to cancel culture the Queen?
Listen, they kicked Trump off of Twitter.
Yeah, Trump was a democratically elected leader.
Yes, mob rule is why they did that.
Hi guys, by the way.
Hello, Dev.
I'm just waiting for the opportunity to talk. How's it going, everyone?
Sorry,
Dev, we don't know whose side you're on, Dev, because I don't know.
Dev's on your side, Adam.
Hold on, no. I'm on both of your sides.
Well, you can't be. Dev, you can't be. I give Dev to you. Then. This is officially a 3-on-1. Dev,
because I live in a country that is a constitutional monarchy.
It seems to work out pretty well. I'm gonna have to mute you. You're not even part of the conversation. A constitutional monarchy is a democracy. Let's be honest here.
It's a democracy, but it's also a monarchy. It is both.
No, it's not. It's
yes,
not.
It is.
We made the distinction before you got here. We're arguing over a large coalition base.
I did not agree that a constitutional monarchy was a democracy. It's a monarchy with democratic elements, which is actually what I argue for, and Spoon does not argue for. He argues for an absolute monarchy.
Well, see, I can point to the example in the 1980s in Australia. Aiden, you probably know about this, where basically they had several House of Commons that were elected, and the politics of the era in Australia was so divided that they could never get anything passed. And what happened was the Governor General, who represents the Queen, basically came in and used the nuclear option, which was, you all now don't have a seat in the Queen's Parliament, and called an election. And that was basically what broke the stalemate. And America has needed something like that for the past 25 years. Like, you guys in the Senate, especially, and to a lesser extent in the House, but still in the House, have been so partisan. You have not had a political nuclear option like what exists in the Commonwealth countries, of basically the monarch, represented by the Governor General in most countries, coming in and saying, you are too dysfunctional, you're all out of a job. And that's important to maintain democracy, I think.
That's true.
But Lennon, who we're citing a lot from, he has a suggestion for a similar government in America that we could go over. Sorry, Spoon.
But at the same time,
hold on. We need to clear this up, because it seems like we've been having a discussion up until now about absolute monarchy versus democracy. Now we're talking about constitutional monarchy.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to bring that in, Dev. We're talking about autocracies versus democracies.
Yeah, I thought it'd be simpler
the structural power base between the two. You're like, a mixed thing is just, I mean,
it's the ultimate centrist position, Adam.
Well, I mean, I also am in favor of constitutional monarchies, but I think we're arguing for the absolute monarchy as the extreme position.
I will also come to Adam's defense, because for a democracy to function, it needs some kind of kill switch. It needs some kind of space. Well, hold on, because you already have that. I completely
disagree. What are you talking about?
It's the Constitution. There are some things that your elected officials cannot do.
A kill switch? Oh, okay. You're talking about a Bill of Rights. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously,
there's
a Bill of
something that you
Rights is
can't do.
necessary. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you have to structure it so you have minority rights, so you respect the
Yes.
minority rights. Yeah,
But the idea is that a Bill of Rights is inherently anti-democratic. Think about
I'm
it.
not.
It is, because, well, think about it this way. You live in your house and you own your house. If 15 squatters show up and say, well, we're going to outvote you now, this is our house, the answer to that is no, obviously. You have an autocratic rule over your property, and it has to be that way. So there has to be some things that democracy can't touch. That doesn't mean that democracy is bad. At least in my opinion. I think you like the government has to be democratic.
We have a Bill of
but-
Rights that protects the rights of the individual, because the individual is always could end up in the minority. The majority
precisely.
doesn't need the protection of the Bill of Rights, because they have the protection of the vote. They're the majority.
Yes, exactly. But that is still anti-democratic, because the minority is the minority. You know what I mean?
Democracy works on a majority rule basis. Therefore, if, again, as Dev said, if a majority of people came in and said, well, we want to turn your private property into public property on the part of the state, then that would be a democratic decision. If everyone agreed to that, except for you, well, your rights as the minority would be stifled. And in fact, that is why having an autocratic ruler or a monarch in place who is above the mob rule, the majority rule, who'd say no, who's in the position to say no, that's not acceptable, and to respect a Bill of Rights, for example, and to not allow the minority to be stifled.
When you say mob rule, I mean, what exactly is the implication there? Because you seem to be saying that. Yeah, but just because the decision was made in a democratic way doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad decision. You're going to be making decisions in a non-democratic way. You're just going to be, I don't know, consulting experts. How exactly are you going to be doing your decision?
Just because it's made by many.
I'm not talking about morality as much as I'm talking about outcomes.
So there's a dispute I wanted to clear up earlier, which we should probably clear up now. It seems as though Aiden and Spoon are arguing that a monarchy would be in the best interest of the people, and that ultimately what is in the best interest of the people is what matters. And the problem that they're putting forward with democracy is that democracy isn't able to adequately serve the will of the people, because the people aren't educated or intelligent enough to really know what would even be in their own best interest, or enough to elect representatives that would be able to do that. So there seemed to be an agreement that ultimately, like, what is in the best interest of the population is what we're arguing about from everyone involved. Is that agreed?
Yes.
The monarchy be a more neutral arbiter.
If I may,
the population has conflicting interests, though. Obviously, we live in a democracy. Well, the democracy is set up to deal with those conflicting interests through a power sharing means. But in a monarchy, you basically have, anyone who disagrees is shut out of. They're never gonna.
But that is the way it is for the minority within a democracy as well. The
minority changes, though. What are you talking about? We have a power, like, we go back and forth. Democrats are in charge, and then Republicans are in charge.
And so somehow that's liberty, that your rights are stifled.
Well, you kind of sound like sore losers here, because, okay, let's say we're going to do a monarchy, and Obama is going to be the monarch from here on out. Now, how do you like your monarchy?
Who selected him?
Well, okay, I don't understand this sore loser thing. If you think this is related to Trump, it's not. If I may go back really quickly to what was said before, and then I will touch back on this. But this is just before I leave.
Aiden, are you denying that there are people who are not going to be in favor of the policies of whatever the monarch proposes? Is that what you're saying?
Of course, there will be.
Okay, will those people ever get relief?
If it is a serious concern that would affect enough people, yeah, potentially.
Well,
because
obviously, some concern could be serious to them, and you could laugh at. That's a situation that happens quite often. Some people think, yes, it does, but in democracies, there is a way to fight non-violently to gain new leadership and change the policies.
All people are equal in their status as being below the monarch, right? There is no minority position there. Everyone,
But we're
would-
talking about how to make policy decisions.
in which case, because there is no minority, no majority under the monarch, they're all they're all under the monarch. There isn't one group that will have their voices heard, even if it's just for 4 years or 8 years, more than another.
Well, that could
Neither one is
potentially be
prioritized.
that could potentially be even worse, because in a democracy situation, you would hope that at least 51% of the people are getting, elites that are working on policy positions that they agree with. A monarch could be working on policy positions that 90% of the population doesn't agree with.
If it would be something that would upset all of their subjects, 90% of their subjects, it wouldn't be in the best interest or incentivize the monarch to do so.
Why?
Because it's their
Because
property.
because it's their
and
property.
their subjects are akin to being their children. You don't hurt your property. You don't, for the most part, seriously punish your children. I mean, some people do, but that's antinormative. People don't beat their children mercilessly for no reason unless they're psychopaths. But you're always going to get a psychopath. However, the difference is,
where does the wealth come from in this situation? Because if you're treating me like I'm your subject, like, I'm going to drag my feet. I'm not really going to be a hard worker in this situation.
Why
are people hard workers in
there's
democracies?
Okay, I just want to ask, why would you not be? There's many people who revere the head of state like a god. There's great honor in honoring the king.
So do you have numbers on how many people are going to be hard workers, we honor the king, and how many people are going to be feet draggers like old Adam who say fuck the king? And I like, what's my like, why do I want to get in ahead in a situation where it just puts my life at risk?
Why would it put your life at risk?
Because people, there's no protection for me. Does private property exist? You're literally saying,
yes,
the people,
private property exists.
You called the people the property of the king, though. So,
but they can own their own private property as well too.
Mm-hmm.
But the king, the monarch, is the state. Therefore, the state is his property. Therefore, he is not want to destroy his property.
I don't think that logically follows. Sorry, Aiden.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
It just, I mean, people destroy their property all the time. People are foolish all the time. People make bad decisions all the time.
Someone who's been trained in the art of statecraft since they were a child.
That makes no difference.
Yes,
no
even
difference.
them. In fact, you can elect an idiot, but he'll be gone in a few years. You have to revolt against a monarch.
Will the idiot be gone in a few years?
Yes.
No, I don't agree. Let me put it this way.
Obama twice.
No, let's put it this way, right? And let's not just talk about the president where you have an 8-year, limit. Okay, let's talk about the majority of politicians, which a lot of them stay in place for their entire lives for the most part. I mean, some of them do, like Bob Byrd of West Virginia, of course, who was a Grand Cyclops in the KKK, served till who is like 98 or whatever. The point is that let's do the hypothetical, right? Okay, or it's not really hypothetical, but let's say you have 3 people who are running for government, right? You have the good Christian, the good pagan. That I'm using Knut Lenin's
and the bad pagan
language here. The good pagan, and then the bad pagan, and he uses this because he's looking at this from a very Christian perspective. So the good Christian is going to be completely honest to the people about his faults, his errors, things that he's good at, that he's not good at. He's going to say honestly what he's going to do. The good pagan who might not necessarily tell the entire honest truth about it, and then the bad pagan will just outright lie and will say, I will grant you everything you could possibly ever want. Everything you could possibly ever want, I will give to you because they want power. Well, generally speaking, what the people end up voting for is the bad pagan because he's promising them the most. Now, if that bad pagan is unable to actually provide those things, they can just say, well, we couldn't get it done this time. I got tied up in bureaucracy. Just vote for me again. I promise next time I'll be able to do it. And that's how you get career politicians. That's how you get people who stay in government for their entire careers. They don't do anything because they're not incentivized to actually do anything. Their options are A, to keep lying, or B, to actually do anything and potentially piss off their electorate. Generally speaking, they tend to go with A and not do anything, but just continue to make promises. Meanwhile, they maximize their own personal wealth and power.
Well, that's
So you end
true. That's all completely true. But it sounds like a bad king is just that with less steps.
Yes,
So
exactly.
here's a quick question. So, according to the only relevant source, Wikipedia, there are two absolute monarchies with a population over 1 million people: the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Sultanate of Oman. So, do these two societies, for the things that you're saying about how an absolute monarchy would go, would you use the Sultanate of Oman and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as examples of this going smoothly?
There's
not a
no
question.
absolute monarch that we're referring to that exists currently.
Okay,
We're talking about
so-
historical examples.
Is there a
Well,
good
sure, but
historical example?
Saudi
hold
Arabia is
on.
closer.
There's a problem with historical examples. If you're looking at a society that existed 200 years ago, it's
Oh,
going to be wildly different than a society
today,
post-industrial revolution, right? Like
Sure.
I don't know that a meaningful comparison could even be made necessarily, right?
Yeah, that is the one argument that I find is interesting, is that the theological aspect is drastically different in today's world than it would be in the old one. And that is one of my biggest conundrums, because I don't think the theologian argument would hold as well up as it would be in those days. And that is a concern that I have, because it
Well, I
doesn't
think-
have...
I think that's why in the United States model they replaced God with the Bill of Rights, because there still has to be some appeal to the ideal, and it was God for a long time, but now it's not, because people aren't as religious as they used to be. So that, yeah, I mean, I think that's why you have constitutions and democracies. So
That
it's
does
just
make
not-
it easy to destroy, though.
sometimes, but like the idea of, like, I mean, I think we're all going to agree here, an absolute democracy would be terrible, right?
It'd be hell, yes.
A
I think
direct.
we can all
Yeah,
agree on that.
Yes.
Like there
Yeah.
has to be some limits on democratic power.
sure. I think the only thing the reason why we're both advocating for monarchy is because we think it allows for maximization of liberty. Because otherwise, you do end up, and yes, it vacillates. So who is the majority today is not the majority 4 years from now necessarily. But you end up-
how do you get that? Because in order for a monarch to maintain power, they have to get resources from the population that they can give to their loyalists to maintain their power base. So
How is
there's
Queen Anne-
Their power base is again, it's mandated by God. They don't need. The difference is, Adam, I would say that a Democrat, I mean, a Democrat is a leader in a democratic society. An elected leader needs to maintain their power by getting elected. So they are motivated and incentivized to give money to their electorate, the people who are going to elect them again, to give money and gifts to their friends and to people who they want to elect them again. Or, it can be through social welfare programs or whatever. It doesn't have to be a direct, give them a yacht or whatever. It can be by making sure that you've done something, you've thrown them a bone so that they'll elect you again, or promise to give them something to throw them a bone. The monarch has no such need because their right is mandated by God. It is mandated inherent. They don't need to
that
appease
doesn't
anyone.
make them immortal. That doesn't
my
make them
point is-
beyond assassination, which is what happens.
Their hereditary line makes them immortal. No, they're not beyond assassinations, but neither is a democratic leader. The difference is, as I was trying to finish up there, is that in a democracy, it is only behooving to the Democrat leader to give things to their base, to their coalition, correct? To try and get their coalition.
There's
to continue
something
to
that keeps
support them.
happening here, Aiden.
Mhm.
I keep asking you questions about the autocracy, and you keep replying with how a democracy works. I know how a democracy works. Okay,
Well, I've
you're
been
not
trying
supposed to be arguing against democracy. You're arguing in favor
Well,
of monarchy. So I'm asking
Okay,
you,
well,
how
hold on.
do resources how are resources
I was trying to get
distributed
there.
in a monarchy?
Sure, but just to clear this up really quickly, it does seem reasonable to me that if you're going to argue for a form of government, that's going to imply an argument against competing forms of government, right?
Yeah,
Like if I was going to argue for capitalism, I would be making arguments against socialism or whatever it was that the person was advocating for. But Adam does have a point that it's hard. Yeah, sure, but it is hard for us to imagine what exactly a monarchy would look like today, especially if the existing monarchies are not ones that you would think are examples of this, right? So it's pretty important to try and paint a picture of how not of the monarchies that exist today, but of what you're proposing. How exactly would this work, and what would this look like today?
Okay, we'll go. I'll get there in a second. To finish up what I was trying to say, just to finish it off, I was I was trying to contrast, where I was saying that the Democrat leaders would be incentivized to give to their coalition, whereas again, there's no majority nor minority under the monarch. They're all equal under the monarch. So if you're talking about a redistribution of taxes, for example, for public works, there wouldn't be one group prioritized over the other because they're all equal. It wouldn't matter if it's one group that is particularly suffering, then that group
is
could be
this monarchy
prioritized.
or democracy?
This is monarchy.
Okay,
Because
in
everyone,
monarchy.
because there's no majority. There is no majority nor minority. They're all equal under the monarch. There's no one group that's going to be able to stifle the liberties of the other.
There are people keeping the monarch in power, and there are people who are inconsequential in keeping the monarch in power. I'm talking, how do you motivate your citizens to produce value that as a monarch you can tax?
Not even just their own produce. Like, but building the society, like just as you would in any like a democratic society.
You have liberty.
Yes.
So you would go about, and you're not going to
live your life.
Yeah, I mean, are you unless you're not going to get? It's not a welfare state, so people would have to function under a capitalist economic system as any other.
I don't quite get what you mean by that.
Yeah,
I mean, what is your incentive
I
to
think
live?
I can reword it if you like. So in our current society, you have a situation where the reason that a democratic government will build schools and build universities and build hospitals and build roads is not because they do it out of the good of their heart. It's because a well-educated, well-fed, healthy population is more productive, and so they can get more tax out of them. But if
the monarch would be incentivized to do so as well for the exact same reasons.
Possibly. But the difference is that the majority of a democratic government's money comes from a majority of the people. Meanwhile, in a monarchy where basically the monarch holds political power not because most of the people want him, but because he has just his court, I guess, the key supporters in his government. All you have to do is just keep those guys happy. You don't have to worry about the welfare of the people. That doesn't matter. And we see this in democracies too, though. I mean, you see situations where there are voting blocks that people talk about, like the young people.
Yeah,
you should
they
do
never
things for
vote.
young people. They never fucking vote, so nothing ever happens for them. Like Bernie Sanders talks about it, and nothing happened. Right? He didn't get elected. There's lots of people will talk about doing things that are popular with young people and never do them because young people don't vote. So there's no power in that block. So it doesn't need to have concessions given to it, because in any kind of monarchy, with the exception of constitutional monarchies, there are basically only a few areas where you have to devote resources. Everything else doesn't matter. So the people will basically just be left out to dry.
It's more complicated.
They're latched to their maximization of their own liberty.
It's more complicated than that, because let's say you ignore the population and you just focus on keeping your key supporters happy. Anyone who becomes an innovator and actually creates something or discovers a diamond mine and starts mining, the monarch is going to become very interested in that resource to maintain their own power and also to keep some rival power base from dethroning them.
There's no rival power base, and their mandate again, it just is. They don't have to worry about getting voted out. And again, outside of assassination, but everyone is liable to assassination. If I could really quickly talk about this issue of taxation, just to get back to that before we move on, please. What I just wanted to say about that in terms of the monarch and getting money and taxation. So the monarch they could increase taxes and horribly tax people, Prince John style, but to do so would inherently devalue the stock longitudinally because it disincentivize people from working. If you overtax people, if you don't allow them to maximize their own personal gain, then the monarch actually minimizes his personal gain by overtaxation. Meanwhile, if you're a caretaker, if you're a democratic leader, you can tax people as much as you want because you don't have to care about the longitudinal longevity of your stock. Right, and by that I'm using stock in the economic sense. A prince, a monarch, assumes liability for the stock. A caretaker, democratic leader, does not. The caretaker thereby doesn't benefit by any expansion of liberty that would be expanded from under a monarch by allowing people to maximize and incentivizing people to maximize their own stock, which again maximizes his as well.
You need a certain amount of resources to maintain power, though, Aiden. And if you have a population that is completely unproductive, you cannot maintain that power. So your population has to be a certain level of productivity, and if you have to tax them at 90% to maintain your power base, then you're going to tax them at 90%.
Okay, but here's the thing: you can get resources in a better way if you tax them lower, because, like Aiden said, in the long run, the lower tax incentive is going to provide them with more produce, and it is going to develop your society better.
Well, the thing is, the monarch situation doesn't incentivize people to become producers because of expropriation.
Society, right? We're talking about a capitalist society, generally speaking. This is a government system, not an economic system. That we're proposing. So why are you incentivized to work so you can eat? I mean, this is what I don't understand. What do you mean? Like, what incentivizes people to work so they don't die?
To become rich, to become powerful.
Because they want to? Because the same reason that incentivizes anyone under a democratic system to become rich and powerful and to work very hard.
But in a monarch situation, you have people that are worried about they're worried about rivals, basically. So
if you have that in capitalism,
who is worried about a rival?
Monarchs.
Comparatively to, again, we have to compare comparatively to democratic system.
You're basically denying. There's a lot of things that you have to deny to believe in this. You have to deny that absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Let's talk about that.
You have to deny that you have to deny that elites are self-interested, that they're not these magnanimous people. You have to deny that the people right below the monarch are not people who are more interested in taking over the monarchy than supporting the monarchy. I mean, there's all these things about human nature that you have to completely deny to buy into something like this.
All that I would say as to all of those critiques, which, first of all, I find extremely cynical, perhaps true, but very, very cynical, is that every single one of those things applies to democracy as well. So if you're going to
I don't disagree, though. That's
system,
listen,
but
Aiden, let me
that's all.
Aiden.
Sorry.
I'm saying democracy is a system that deals with human nature as it is. People are generally self-interested. There are people that are driven to power. There are people that will do anything for power. These are things about human nature that democracy accepts and deals with. Elites are mostly interested in maintaining their own power. Things like that are parts of human nature, but democracy focuses those elites on developing good public policy for a large number of people to maintain power, and monarchy doesn't do that. Monarchy develops a system where you're focused on developing extractive economic institutions that are going to take from the population and give to a small number of people that are going to keep you in power.
If the issue that you have with monarchy essentially is that because there's a single ruler and they're going to want to maintain their power, that they will inherently be an asshole, right?
They have to be an asshole.
Then why would
you don't seem to understand that the boss is the boss because he is the asshole. That's why he becomes the boss.
If I could finish, then why would you ever assume that anyone who runs for office is not also an asshole, or that people vote out of spite because they're also assholes?
They are.
Okay, then if the postulation is that everyone is an asshole, then why do you want a system that will inevitably lead to the worst, biggest assholes being elected, rather than hoping for a system where it might not be the biggest asshole?
Listen, it's all about the incentive structure, okay? In order to maintain their power, they have to deliver public policy that makes 70 million people happy.
The monarch doesn't.
It also might make 100 million people unhappy.
The monarch doesn't. Exactly. So you have a
what makes people happy isn't necessarily good for them either. And that's
okay.
No, hang on. No, I'm serious. It's a problem I have with the Dictator's Handbook, because one of the things that he talks about is basically trying to just give people as much to maintain your power. You're giving to people to maintain your power because you want to make them happy. But
Yes.
giving to people and giving, well, what do you end up with? You end up with the national debt being what it is. You end up with debt just spiraling out of control as it has in democracies all over the world. I mean, unfortunately,
It's not debt.
depending.
It's not debt.
No, the debt is actually a service that we provide to people. It's accommodating people's desire to save is what it's doing.
Is it time for MMT?
Well, I'm just saying, I've read your Mencius Moldbug, and your Mencius Moldbug doesn't know anything about economics, so it's
I find it a bit disingenuous.
Austrian school garbage. So
Okay, I mean, I disagree. But okay.
do you know? Well, I don't want to get in a side conversation about the debt. I'm saying that there is this thing called the will to power. People rise to power, and you can incentivize them to maintain that power in a couple of different ways. Monarchy incentivizes people to keep a dozen or two people fat and happy, and not even really concern yourself other than keeping rivals down in the population with the rest of the population. There's absolutely no incentive for people to.
Okay, here's one problem with that argument. If that even is the case, he could provide those people with more goodies if he lets the population actually run the full capital gambit.
If you reduce tax, let's say that. Let's take that argument. Let's assume the monarch is a dick who just wants to make sure that his pals who are keeping him in power have the most goodies. They have the most yachts. They have the most money. He will be incentivized to not overly tax the people so that they will be more productive, so that what he does get out of the taxation per GDP will be higher percentage wise.
Yes.
Therefore, he eventually ends up with more goodies to give to his pals.
This would be the Thomas Sowell tax cuts for the rich argument.
It depends upon what. I mean, in monarchies, a lot of times they have monopolies and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't. You haven't spelled out a decent understanding of monarchy for me to really critique.
Okay,
it.
well,
I don't think every monarchy has a guild system. And
No,
the guild system was basically the crown's monopoly system. So I don't think that's inherent to monarchy.
Discussed at all, and I don't have anything set up to talk about guilds because I didn't anticipate that. It wasn't part of our argument. I mean, it could happen, but not all monarchies are identical, which is one of my reasons with issues with Dictator's Handbook, saying all monarchies are exactly the same, essentially, as all military juntas, which are the same as all dictatorships, which are the same as all CEOs.
Unusual, yeah.
Just because they all could be defined under the umbrella of autocracy.
But do you understand that the argument that they're making is, even if the monarch is some magnanimous person, the monarch has certain behaviors they have to participate in to maintain their position of power that really are dependent upon human nature of the people beneath them?
Okay, but again, we just postulated a theory of why you can maximize both the profit of the people and also the people he has to pay off.
Get correct. Why doesn't
this in a democracy as well, Adam?
Why doesn't this exist? Why are monarchies endangered species? What are we missing?
Well, geez, I have so many quotes. There's oh my god, do you want to start on that, Spoon, and I can try to find some of the millions of quotes from the founders on why that's the case? But
your list is probably more organized than mine. So.
I mean, it's a single list. But
before we get into that, I do have one question before we move on like how is decision making done in this monarch situation? Because
what's best for the people?
What's that? What's
best for the people?
How do you know that will be the decision making mechanism?
Okay, what's good for the monarch? Right. Okay. So again, let's run off of this premise. The monarch is an asshole. Everyone's an asshole. We'll run off this very cynical perspective, which I don't agree with. But let's run off of that paradigm. If everyone's an asshole, then the monarch would want to maximize their own wealth, right? Then they would want to enact policy within society that would maximize their own wealth without destroying their own property. Because if you're trying to make money off of your, let's say your stock, if the country and the people are your stock, you wouldn't want to do something that would harm it. You would instead want to try and pump the stock, right? So you would want to actually try and influence the wealth of your people so that it influences your wealth. You wouldn't
I think
want
that's false, actually.
Okay.
Why?
Yes.
No, it could be.
Because let's say if you are the king of a country with 100 million people, you can afford to lose a few if you have to.
Yeah. And
If you have all this land, you can afford to burn some of it and to pollute some of it and to just, strip mine some of it. You don't. If you own a whole bunch of stuff, you can destroy it as long as it's not in your own personal backyard, and you don't really care.
And what happens when conflict arises between two citizens? The king has to take a side there.
You have courts for that.
Isn't that what the courts are for? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the king, so the decision making is basically going to be a court system, the same as the court system that we have.
I mean, there have been courts throughout monarchies throughout history.
Right,
I don't think the president gets involved in like petty squabbles. So
what if there's a disagreement between one of the key supporters that is maintaining the power base of the king and some other wealthy industrialist?
I think, again, we fundamentally disagree on the idea of maintaining the power base of the king. But if there's a squabble between them, I don't know, again, why it can't be handled by a court.
Well, are you saying that the king just has the king doesn't have to, the king...
I know you don't like it.
That only works if I accept. Listen, that only works if everyone accepts that it's a divine mandate. We live in a completely secular world. There are going to be lots of people that don't accept that it's a divine mandate.
It's not just that, Aiden. I think you've been inconsistent on this point specifically this whole time.
Okay.
You've said that it's a divine mandate, and that's just how he maintains his power. But at the start of the debate, you mentioned a Russian king who was overthrown by the people. And it turns out his divine mandate didn't matter when that happened.
No, because when you this is always the case, right? The reason why why I brought that up is because there's a perception, I think, that the mandate, the mandate exists. The mandate exists to his heirs. You can remove a bad monarch, but the mandate is on the line, right?
Well, not so if you say no more monarch. We're going to implement something else. The mandate's gone then.
In which case you.
But you can do that in any government.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
It's a revolution, and you can get that in any government.
But my point is though, is that you've been saying there is no other power base. There's always another power base.
Yeah.
And at the very least, democratic systems can kind of absorb those other power bases and maybe give them enough perks that they won't overthrow you.
Well, it's also a technical issue, Dev, because the thing about these small power bases, it's like if there's only 10 people maintaining the power of the king, then those 10 it's easy to buy off 10 people. It's not so easy to buy off 435 representatives or 100 senators. So the more diffuse the power base is, the more of a technical challenge it becomes to actually overthrow people. What's that?
It also makes them more irresponsible, though.
Well, there's a balance there. That is true. It does. Because if it's like, I'm only 1 out of 500, who cares how I vote? That's true. Yes. It does.
Their specific constituents, specific constituents do care how they vote.
There's something to be said, though, about, and that's related to the diffusion of power, which is not just who cares how I vote. It's the anonymity of voting that makes it so that people are more incentivized within a democratic system to make essentially bad decisions because they know that they can never be held responsible for their actions of voting, which is a good thing, by the way. I agree. It's a good thing that you shouldn't be held responsible for your vote, but it also causes people to vote for despots, for dictators, Monarchy and democracy are both susceptible to corruption. But the reason why democracy, I would say, is more so is due to that diffusion. and because elected
No, the
officials are temporary in
diffusion,
nature.
the diffusion helps. The diffusion
Yeah,
works.
I thi-
in
I think
Diffusion of
favor of
responsibility.
democracy.
Diffusion of responsibility helps democracies be less corrupt.
No, what do you mean by corrupt? You understand there are people that are getting public policy decisions that make them happy, even though you might not be one of them, Aiden.
Sure.
What if it comes at
But-
the expense of other people? Like the
That
taxes.
happens in autocracies as well. You're
Okay.
still going to be paying taxes in your monarchy, and you're
Yeah.
not going to be happy about paying taxes in your monarchy either, and you're going to be even more unhappy because especially if your monarch is Obama and you're a Trump supporter.
Sure.
So let me lay out what makes democracy effective, because there's just one thing I have a counter argument on. You're acting like top-down decision making is a good idea, which I don't necessarily understand, because you're basically making the exact same argument. Top-down decision making is planned economies, right? That's basically communism.
That's literally also how
No.
every private enterprise works.
I mean, but to equate a monarchy
but,
with communism, again, this is an issue with. I don't like this. It's over saying that a communist dictator is the same as a CEO, is the same as a monarch. I think is a simple oversimplification to a degree that I don't even think is really. I mean,
Yeah.
to what degree
Especially
do I
how
have
they
to
pay off the
explain that?
coalition is very different.
What here, let me just read this. So what makes democracies effective? So my argument rests on behavioral economics. For you to accept my argument, you have to accept that human beings are fundamentally self-interested. Yes, we can be selfless in some situations, but in general, humans look to maximize their own well-being. Political leaders only care about people who got them elected and develop public policy that benefits their voters, often at the expense of the opposition voters. That's Bruce Bueno de Mesquite and Smith, 2003. This creates a socio-economic system that shifts any costly externalities onto parties with no political power and away from voters. In your situation, that would be everybody. Though most people think of voting as a decision making about the future, with central planning being the furthest extension of this idea, where only the most intelligent and experienced people make political and economic decisions, voting in a democratic society actually functions as a selection mechanism based on the policies of the past. This makes the voting process much simpler, since anyone can look at their current situation. Do they have good schools, safe streets, clean drinking water, and vote on how the current policies are affecting them, instead of conceptualizing voting as a future prediction mechanism, which I think
Sure.
you're doing. Something even the smartest economists and engineers often have difficulty doing. Voting is better conceptualized as a poll of people's individual situations. Voters evaluate how current policies are affecting them, utilizing experience that they only possess, and vote to maintain the current leadership, or non-violently enlist new leadership to displace the current status quo. If voting is a kind of market survey designed to poll the populace on each individual's current situation, good schools, safe streets, clean drinking water, polling the widest number of constituents should best represent the nation in aggregate and produce the best possible policy. So that is why I think democracy produces better policy, because we at least know that these policies are amicable to a large number of people, where in your situation, I mean, you're not going to make everybody happy. We both agree on that, I'm sure.
Yeah. If I may, something that you brought up there and that I want to talk about is this future versus present mindedness thing, right? Because we are talking about future mindedness, but that's on purpose, because we're looking at long-term well-being. So of course people can look out and see like, oh, right now, and this is how, you're correct, this is how people work. They look and they say, oh, prices at the pump. Well, there's a primacy and recency effect in terms of human psychology that depends. So sometimes people can get a little bit confused because they forget like how things were directly beforehand. But right now they go out and say things are okay. I'm doing all right. I'm not doing horribly. And that's exactly what elected leaders are, what they do. Their way they stay in power is by appeasing the masses. They will appease the masses in whatever way, usually via spending, that will cause them to be popular and continue to be elected.
Mhm.
And as a result of that spending, it can take many, many, many years in order for it to become apparent that they have made many errors. At which point, they're not responsible. They're no longer in office, or if they are, then they can just resign. The monarch, on the other hand, is more likely to make good but unpopular decisions. So it might be rougher in the interim.
How do you know they're good? There's no selection
The
mechanism.
correctness of an action can only be understood through the lens of history, through retrospect. And that's
How does
what
the
makes it
monarch
very
know it is a
difficult,
good decision?
because a monarch has an education and has advisors.
That's just laughable, Aiden. What is the selection mechanism?
How is that any different than a president and what he's advised
A
by?
president who
Well, listen,
hold on a second,
because
hold on a second,
70
hold on a second.
because 70 million people showed up at the polls and said, "I like the policies
Yeah,
that
but
we
that doesn't
have
mean
now."
it's good.
So
It means that 70 million people are cool with it. In your situation, you have 0 people cool with it.
But that doesn't
I
mean
just gotta ask.
anything.
I just gotta ask, Aiden, are you making the experts agree argument?
Yeah, if she is totally.
that would be a epistocracy.
I'm referencing the meme, but yes, I get it.
No, that would be an epistocracy.
But see, I don't understand that idea. Like, for example, if someone came to you and said, enact this policy, and a whole bunch of experts told you, don't do that, but a whole bunch of people said, but we like it, it's popular, you're going to go with, but everyone
But it's
I know
popular.
tells me this isn't a good idea. Who are you going to listen to? The ignorant masses or the experts that tell you this isn't a good idea?
Can we focus on what? So, in this situation, what is some policy that the monarch is thinks is going to be good long term? And tell me, good how? Good for who?
People, investment in infrastructure, for example.
Good for the state, in terms of good for maximizing the profitability of the state, which would mean maximizing the profitability of the individual agents.
And happier people produce more wealth, which would be
Sure.
good for the monarch.
So happier people are you're presumably going to be more productive, which is good for the state.
So you're talking about developing infrastructure or something like that. You're talking about building roads.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Do you think?
By the way,
if-
yeah, sure. Why not?
Because I often hear do you tell me if you guys think this is unusual? Like, if you hear politicians talk about this, do you guys find it odd to hear politicians talk about plans that like exceed their presidential term by like 15 years?
They do it all the time.
I mean,
This is our 15-year plan. That will be way outside of their capacity to.
you're literally arguing that that's a good thing.
Yes, because the monarch would be in power for 15 years, presumably.
Yes, whereas the person who's doing it on a temporary
because
basis
they can't
is
diffuse
like,
their
is
responsibility.
half-assed.
If 15 years comes and goes and they haven't done it, well, there's a direct finger to point. If in a democratic system, if they've gotten out of power, they could say, well, I got bungled up in bureaucracy, I wasn't able to do it. The monarch is not capable of diffusing responsibility onto outside sources.
But the monarch can make mistakes.
Sure,
True.
but they can't diffuse responsibility.
So what? Like, if the monarch says, okay, we really have this climate change issue that we have to do, so we're going to make sure that we lower our carbon emissions dramatically, and they basically shut down any business that's a net carbon producer, and they do that for 15 years. It could be a step completely in the wrong direction. There's no mechanism to find out 10 years in if this is actually working.
But I'm sorry that I have to do the whataboutism, but it is the whataboutism. I don't understand how that's any different in a democracy.
No, in democracy, there are several elections which are the selection mechanism. Is this working? Is this not working?
But you're also entrusting the next person to just not continue it.
You're also I mean, I keep saying, which is
what
true,
is
though.
what is the selection mechanism in autocracy? I mean, you're basically saying that, the people might not know what's good for them, so they could be suffering 10 years into this policy, but know in your heart of hearts this is the right thing to do. Like
No. Again, it's why you have advisors, and yes.
So you're listening. So those advisors are the ones that are telling you. How is this different than the 5-year plans that Mao came up with?
Does a president not have advisors?
How is this not the great leap forward? That's my
I
question.
haven't said it. I don't even know
The Counter-Revolution.
where that's come from. Actually, maybe I've lost the plot on it. I don't know. I don't know how we got to that though. I don't even
Yeah.
get. It's disconnected from.
It
my
is a
thought
bit
process right
disconnected.
now.
We can go back a few steps if you like. When it comes to responsibility, what does it matter if, okay, here, let's say the king has his 15-year plan and the king fucks up, and so the country's in ruins, and then the king just walks out on his balcony and is like, yeah, sorry guys, I fucked up. It's like, well, oh well, and he just starts pissing on all the people that live back inside.
Pretty sure they fucking revolt and kill you.
They would
Just
kill you.
saying.
So then
See,
what's next?
They have
But
to
there's a
revolt.
reason for
They
that.
have to revolt and kill you. In a democracy, you just vote them out, and there's no revolt, and it doesn't.
But
Can
the
you
top-
vote them out
doesn't take
before it ever
15
gets
years to
bad?
happen.
Yeah, it
takes
doesn't.
15 years
Usually
to happen.
As I said, by the time that you normally notice that it's gotten bad, it's after that person's already out. But let's say they are still in, then you vote them out. Let's say you vote out a bad president. You vote out the vile, big, evil, double Hitler Donald Trump. You get rid of him. Well, for the most part, a lot of the people that he put in place, let's say judges in the democratic
They're
system,
still there.
they're still there. People on lower levels in democracy are still there.
You're still
In
not
fact,
offering.
may I please, just to finish my thought here. With the monarch, you have one vector. You can get rid of him. If they are a real fuck up, you get rid of that person. In a democracy, the roots of corruption go down and down and down and down to lower levels. And just by cutting off the head of the snake, you don't get rid of the corruption at all. In fact, it's easier to remove corruption from a system by getting rid of one bad monarch than otherwise you'd have to overthrow the entire democratic system that has become corrupt over a period of time. Does that make sense?
Kind
mean,
of and
I
kind of
don't know.
not.
I don't know what you're calling corruption.
The representatives.
I mean,
The Senate.
even in like Mulbug talks about monarchy as like a corporation, but even a
Yes.
corporation has a selection mechanism. They have these things called quarterly reports. Every 3 months, you figure out, what your profit and loss is. I mean,
And
it's
you're beholden
even
to your stakeholders, which
like
is the same way
if-
you're beholden to the state.
what's
The
that?
state, which is you are beholden to your stakeholders. It's the same way. If you've really pissed off the stakeholders,
Yes, but this in a monarchy, there are no stakeholders. There is no selection mechanism. That's what I'm saying.
all the citizens.
What is the selection mechanism? In corporations, the selection mechanism is the market, sales. Capitalism runs on sales. Your sales are either up or down. You're either coming out with a new product people want, or no one is buying your old product. You're growing, or you're going out of business. There's a selection mechanism that takes place that people keep tabs on every quarter, every 3 months.
So
In democracies, there is a selection mechanism. It's how happy are your constituents. In the House of Representatives, that selection mechanism takes place every 2 years. In the Senate, it takes place every 6 years. In the presidency, it takes place every 4 years. In monarchy, the only selection mechanism is everybody has to get together and revolt.
And can you not see?
That's not a good
wait, wait, wait.
situation.
But can you not see how that's way more motivating to the monarch?
No,
'Cause-
it's
wait,
way
ma-
more unmotivating. Voting is
Why?
easy.
If I may, you're right. Voting is easy. So if I go in and I muck around and I screw up completely, I take a bunch of bribes, I'm completely corrupt, I can just leave. And I'm gone. I'm out of my position. I've gotten my bag and I'm out. If the monarch does that, they get killed. It's a
Yeah.
one of these is a bit more serious of a threat than the other. And one of them leads to more corruption because of the diffusion of a responsibility within a democratic system. The
What do you
democratically
define
elect-
corruption?
paying off people,
being
taking
paid off to
foreign
make-
the whole
money,
thing of-
China.
This is what a monarchy is. You're literally taxing people and giving Lamborghinis to the people that are keeping you in power. That's not corruption.
No one's keeping you in power. You're kept in power by your own mandate. Whereas
not true.
That's not true.
That's not true.
in a democracy, you are going to want to pay
Listen.
people off to keep yourself in power. And you
Listen,
admit
I
this is
hope
also
the head of
true
your
in the
military is a big believer in God and not an atheist, because as soon as the head
Yeah,
of the
actually we
military
do.
is an atheist, you're fucked.
You see, that's true. In these kinds of monarchies, you have you know, a bunch of counselors. You have the guy who runs your military, maybe the guy who runs your economy, maybe, you know, you have counselors, and that's it. And that's all you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about
Most
the
of them are
people.
eunuchs, so you don't have to worry about
What-
them
what-
having
what-
loyalty to a family
This is in
over you.
China.
I mean, okay, if we're talking about one specific, and I already talked about how the Chinese monarchy was incredibly corrupt for a lot of reasons as well. We're not saying that, first of all, and I think I said this at the beginning, but just to reiterate, we have never said that monarchy is a perfect system. We've said that there's no perfect system. We are offering an alternative, not saying that we've come up with the grand fucking idea. You know what I mean?
Read Mulbuck's Cameralism model for that one.
Well, yeah, neo-Cameralism
That's-
might be a superior model, but we're not
should
arguing
probably
Superior model is
neo-Cameralism.
insane.
Yeah, maybe I should read super chats. I'm not sure. Do you want to? Do you have
Yeah,
any?
sure,
I
I
don't
could
want
use-
to
I
cut you
could
off
use-
if you have any closing arguments. or anything.
I
Are
have
we
a-
near the end already?
Well, I don't. You know,
It's 3:07
I'm
in
not.
the morning for us.
I don't think I'm going to change your guys' mind. I
No, I
mean,
don't. No, we're pretty solidified on
You
it.
seem pretty set on this.
If you would like, if I could, how about read some super chats? I'm gonna have a smoke,
Actually,
and then if you have anything to say, Spoon, and then if you're all right with me finishing my script, I can finish my script. I wrote this big script, guys. Let me finish my script. If you want, it's up to you.
Sure.
I think I have a very spicy argument.
We
might piss
can
people
do.
off,
We
so.
can hear the rest of the script. Spoon, do you want to? Are you taking off? Do you want to say anything?
I will a bit, but I want to. Have you read Mulbuck's argument? It's a big fucking argument. His argument for the neo-Cameralist security model of how he would run a state as far as the military goes.
He
'Cause
wants to
It's very like
a privatized military. Yeah.
No. It's not. It's not private. It's there's a certain word that he runs. Weaponry, like the weaponry is encrypted with
Moldbug
the
uses
same way.
weird words for everything, though. To be fair, so.
No. There's a certain technology that is used for the nuclear weapons now, and he says that you can apply that to small arms, and that's how you would keep an army regulated.
Mm-hmm.
It's a massive system. I was wondering if you ever read that. That it's a very intense read, and I think it goes way over my head.
Okay.
but-
I haven't read it. No,
No.
I have read Molebug.
Yeah, his
So-
if you type in like Moldbug neo-Cameralism, you should be able to find the specific chapter on
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah, it's meant to be on the one that Frederick the Great used.
Mhm.
The one in Prussia, and he's interesting because he managed to sort of forgo some of the elements of the Enlightenment and still managed to crack open the Prussian economy in a way that would rival the rest of the Western powers, which is unusual.
Most of the people in favor of these positions don't like the idea of power sharing because it is quite evident that when elected leaders get into power, they put policy prescriptions forward that tend to be at the expense of the people who didn't vote for them.
But-
This happens.
right.
This is the world we
Precisely.
live in. Yeah.
Precisely.
So
it's
you're
at the expense of the minority. We are advocating
But
for this
the
because we want
minority
to protect. We want to
changes.
protect the minority.
The minority changes though. So this
would
is
always
this is
protect the minority,
democracy. There's a power, and that's not true. I fundamentally disagree that would happen because those people become irrelevant. They become irrelevant.
They're not irrelevant under the monarch because they're all subjects equally. So it doesn't matter if one group is more of a
Listen,
majority than the other. And I understand.
As a
your-
monarch, who are you going to be more interested in? The people that you don't even know exist, or the people gunning for your job?
no one's gunning for your job.
You hold on, Aiden. What?
That's what your children are for.
I don't think anyone's gunning for your job. That you have a hereditary line. Your children be the only ones gunning for your job.
They're definitely gunning for your job because you mentioned before that if you do a bad job, you will get overthrown. They
Yes, if
definitely
you
gun
do
for
Okay,
your
your
so
job.
yeah, if you do
they're
a terrible
They're
job,
waiting for you to slip up. They're waiting for you to make them
You have to do a pretty
unhappy.
big slip up. You have to do a pretty big slip up, like do prohibition for the military and then send them off to war, like Nicholas. Okay, that's how he got put to gunpoint.
So I guess you fundamentally just disagree that people are generally looking to raise their socioeconomic status. And
No,
even
they are.
though it's not everybody, there's enough of them that once you get to the top, in any situation. You're a big celebrity, you're a big business mogul, you're a big representative. You're running for president. There's always fucking 35 people running for president.
That may be true, but I find your idea that the dictator and the monarch are the same person just because of a power structure and the way that they were raised and how they got there has no discernible difference on their mindset. I find that completely insane.
Well, I actually kind of find it crazy that you think you can just raise somebody to be a good leader and that'll work out.
Yeah,
okay, put it this way: why would you rather have someone, a dictator, lead you, or the monarch?
Well, hang on, if I may, because that's too abstract. Well, I mean that's not abstract. That's direct. But let me make it abstract. Okay, right. Let me make it abstract. Okay, so in terms of the raising, we're talking about the background element, right? So, a phrase was brought up earlier, which was absolute power, right? That quote.
Yeah,
absolute power corrupts absolutely.
That, as applied to a monarch, is environmental determinism. You're saying that because you would be born into power, therefore you would be born corrupt. If that were true, then everyone who was born wealthy would be progressively more and more evil than those people who are born progressively more and more poor. Democracies absolutely lead to powerful dictators, while monarchs are born into the role of power and therefore wouldn't know what it's like to not have power. People who are not born into power will seek it out, and they're not going to generally seek it out for good reasons. Again, they will lie, they will cheat, they will steal in order to obtain it. And those will be the people within a democracy who will be the most persuasive. The person who has no morality and is willing to lie will be the person that will be more likely to get elected.
You keep acting as those people aren't in the monarch too. There will be bad monarchs, always. Democracy. Those people exist. The lying and cheating and stealing and the structure of monarchy, though, you're basically creating a power base that this is the only way those people can rise to power. Where in a democratic capitalist situation, there are all sorts of avenues to power. There's sports, there's business, there's 434 representatives, there's 100 senators, there's all these different avenues to power. You're constricting those avenues to power to like 12 people.
Oh, no.
And your society's still going to have like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 of these people.
Not in the least. I fundamentally disagree with that. You're talking about like power in sports, being a powerful business owner. The monarchy doesn't precludes none of these things at all. Is the monarch supposed to be the greatest sports star as well? No, nothing that I think we've said has alluded to that. In fact, again, if everyone is equal under the monarch, there's no one group, there's no one individual that's more or less powerful under that. It is any class, and there will be classes because classes exist inherently. I think we have to accept that classes will exist. There will be people who are richer or poorer than others, but all of them exist outside of the class of the monarch, who is outside of class.
Aiden, okay? What if I am a business mogul who becomes wealthy through selling oil and natural gas, okay? And I come out and I start saying, listen, our king is a piece of shit. The things that this king is trying to do with this climate change stuff is fucking garbage. He's an idiot, a moron, and we should revolt. We should replace him. What is going to happen to me?
I mean, it depends on the monarch.
Listen, I have more money than the monarch.
If you have a lot of money, if you have a lot of money and a lot of wealth, and you've clearly proven yourself to be useful, it would behoove the monarch to maybe listen to you.
Okay, so but I don't give a fuck about this monarch. I'm going to go to the head of the military and I'm going to say,
so you're extremely corrupt and you want power for yourself, which is the exact same thing you get in a democracy. Is
right,
people who are corrupt.
So, but listen, in a democracy, there's ways to deal. There's a more diffuse power base. The monarch is basically calling the shots for everyone. So it's going to incentivize people like this oligarch to try to gain that power.
The oligarch would be better off in the democracy because he has to pay less people. Democracy has to pay people off continuously, whereas the monarchy doesn't have to do that.
Listen, I'm going to go talk to the military guy. I'm going to say, listen, he's not paying you enough. I'm going to pay you double. And I say we kill this guy in his sleep. Okay? What's
okay?
the
So
monarch,
this is a series
monarch,
of corruption. This
your
can happen in
monarch,
any. But this
listen,
could happen. This could happen in any system of government. What you just
your
described.
monarch,
Yes, it
your
can happen
monarch.
in every system of government, but it's more incentivized than a monarchy.
Totally.
Why?
Your
I
monarch.
don't
Listen,
understand why.
Aiden, your monarch is a fucking idiot if I don't end up in a jail cell in 24 hours. Okay. And you know what that's going to say to the population? That's going to say to the population, if I become a wealthy oil baron, I'm probably going to end up in a jail cell. I better not do that.
So
And your population is just going to be completely demoralized. You're going to have a bunch of fucking losers under your monarch.
May I? Again, I don't think you're identifying an issue that is unique or endemic to monarchy. If you have a, please,
I know,
but
I understand that. You keep saying things I understand.
Okay, but just to reiterate, if tomorrow Elon Musk comes out and says we need to fucking kill Joe Biden, and he puts him in a jail cell for making a terroristic threat against the president, does everyone go, oh man, Elon Musk he must be right because he said to go kill Joe Biden? That's what you're proposing essentially?
There's a key difference there, and it's that
big difference.
A billionaire in a democracy can say, you know what, I have a path to power. I can run for office. A billionaire in a monarchy does not have that path, so he has to incite a revolt.
Yes, it's the only path to power.
So, I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Listen, the monarchs.
Why do you inherently? Why would these people who are making all this money, who are able to have all this personal wealth and power under this system, which I think and I didn't even get into the taxation data because I could have gone on to the numbers on that. But if people are very wealthy and they're all doing well, why do they also want power on top of it?
Well, some of them wouldn't, but some of them would.
And people who would want power would be dictators.
Maybe not. Here in a democracy, you can have a whole bunch of billionaires and a whole bunch of people who are successful financially, but they're not all going to be Donald Trump running for office. Only a few of them will be. But they can just run. They don't have to use their billions to hire a private army or pay off the general. They can just run for office. And it's
and you would want that person who is inherently malfeasant to be in power over a monarch who is
it malfeasant to say that you have business acumen and you think that you could do well in the public sector? And
you're going to pay off the military to assassinate someone? Yeah, I think you're malfeasant there.
Well, hold on. That's only because there's no other way to get power.
Yeah, he changed the thought experiment on you.
But you have power in every other way besides control over the state.
Listen,
why would you want that?
In Spoon's king training school that you guys are going to train the king, the first thing they're going to teach him day one is
it's like Hogwarts, Adam, by the way.
The first thing they're going to teach the king day one is they're going to say, listen, you don't want anyone getting richer than you. Okay.
No.
That is a threat to you, to your personal safety and to your power base. They're going to say, listen,
completely disagree.
So what do you mean? Like as soon as someone's richer than the king is fucking not.
Why? Because again, when you maximize the wealth of your subjects and you are taxing them, then the wealthier your subjects are, the wealthier you are. The healthier the state, the healthier your rule.
We should move on to super chats, obviously.
Would you rather should we do super chats first and then finish my stupid script?
Let's read a couple super chats and then we'll go to your script.
Sure.
Brain for $10 says, I'm surprised to find the big brain so committed to ideology. Perhaps the two could start this by discussing the less hyperbolic pros and cons of each ideology and the circumstances that best suit them. Well, I think we failed utterly at that already.
I wasn't trying to. By the way, I wanted to come into this in a very friendly way. I will say also, and I will discuss this in my closing statement. I find the inherent revulsion towards monarchy that creates cognitive dissonance in me, guys. You push me further towards it when you just go, you're stupid, Aiden, for even theorizing on this.
I'm not saying
I don't think
not you. not you specifically, but
I think
there's
the
okay.
chat saying
you
that.
know,
I think the chat's saying that.
no, not the chat even specifically, but it's just something
It's an
I,
American mindset.
well, I'll get into that, but this is a very American, I would say, mostly Americentric, maybe Canadiocentric secondarily, Dev, but
Well-
you guys don't disincentivize me from believing in this shit, from being like, that's stupid.
Well, see, yeah, like I still fundamentally think that constitutional monarchy
Has
is
its
probably a
place.
pretty good system. 'Cause it's still democracy.
May I ask you guys? Do you guys know what the richest countries in the world are per GDP? The richest countries in the world per GDP.
No idea.
They're Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, and Monaco. They're all constitutional monarchies. Just saying.
Well, probably because they have diamonds or oil or some.
Liechtenstein,
Resource.
Luxembourg,
Liechtenstein?
and Monaco.
No, they don't have diamonds or oil. No, it's because they have high trust societies.
Yes.
And they're
If you wanna
probably
go-
tiny.
If you want to go diamonds, you
They are
go to
very
South
tiny,
Africa,
Adam. They're
and
microstates,
then
essentially.
it's hopelessly corrupt.
You guys keep using the word corrupt, and I'm curious. I mean, I'm real curious what you mean by corrupt.
Well,
Have you seen my
it-
government?
he's talking about South Africa, but corrupt, I would say, okay, I'll define it, is influenced by external actors, able to be influenced by external actors.
That's everyone. That's everything.
Sure, of course. Well, most people are capable of being corrupt, but the monarch has less likelihood of being corrupt than other actors, I would say.
No, wrong.
Yeah,
Why?
I do disagree with that.
That's
Especially
ridiculous.
Here.
May
You
I
know
ask
what?
why?
Okay. In an absolute monarchy, yes, they're definitely more corruptible. In a constitutional monarchy, probably not, because they only have limited power as it is in a constitutional monarchy.
But you own the state, so what is someone going to offer you? What can someone offer you beyond you already own everything? What can someone else offer you? It's why Trump. It's
Your
why
head
Trump,
on a plate.
That's a
It's
threat.
okay, but it's why Trump was comparatively seen as sort of incorruptible, because he already had so much money. He couldn't be bought off very easily. In a democratic system, you can easily buy people off comparatively to a monarchic system.
Trump did not get the one thing that he wanted more than life itself.
A
Twitter.
re-election.
A second term. Yeah, exactly. He goes down in
He
history
still
as
might
a
get it.
one-term
He's
loser.
gonna
Yeah,
run
we'll see
again.
how that works out.
You still might get it. Who knows?
Yeah, but
Dude,
you're
2024 is gonna be a
acting
shit show.
you're acting like there's nothing Trump want that Trump is incorruptible. Trump wants something.
No, Trump. I'm saying,
Trump wants a
look,
legacy.
everybody is corruptible, but we're talking about degrees of corruptibility.
Here, let me put
Why
it
is
this
it funny?
When I pointed out earlier that if you own that much stuff, like if you're a monarch and you own the whole country, and then you have so
What
much
can
to
someone-
spare that you
what
don't
can someone
actually
offer you?
care.
What can someone
Well,
offer you?
If
to-
one of
to get
if one of your
your
friends,
property?
if one of your friends, say the guy who runs the military comes up and says that he wants a favor, and you are inclined to give him that favor because he helps keep you safe, and part of that favor involves maybe a small minority of people go missing in the middle of the night, and it doesn't matter because you have 100 million people. What do you care? If you
Well-
own 100 million subjects and say 100,000 of them die overnight, does it really matter that much to you? The answer is going to be no.
It should, but perhaps does not. I'd be willing to admit. Yeah. to
That's
agree.
quite disturbing that anyone can consider life that just ephemeral.
Again, I think that the. Uh-oh, now they're coming for me.
I think that's me.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Hide the bong.
What I find to be endemic in this discussion that I think exists for good reason is that there's a lot of cynicism, and it's perhaps healthy cynicism, but I think we're trying to look at things a little bit more positively. Cynicism is healthy to a degree, but
Well,
the
I
cynicism
The
that
utopianism
that-
is very dangerous.
Yeah,
though.
yeah, I was
cynicism
gonna
that I
say
find
that
in the Dictator's
because-
Handbook, though, that's I think unhealthy cynicism in that book, and I'm not the only one who thinks that. I've seen reviews of the book that also say like this is incomprehensibly cynical.
I mean,
Yeah.
Aiden, you and I had this conversation privately at
Yeah.
one point. Sorry, no one else got to see it, but we had the conversation privately, and that's why I called your ideas utopian.
I don't think they're utopian. In fact, I think democracy is a utopian idea. To truly believe that democracy can solve the ills of society is completely utopian. And
especially
instead what
because
I
the
think
old founding fathers thought it would end up in
what you
tyranny.
mostly get is majority rule and devolution into tyranny, as I began to describe earlier on. I think you get devolution into tyranny. However, yeah,
Well, I think that can
system of
happen, but
government,
it's not inherent to it. It can happen, though, yeah.
it has been a consistent trend. with
Aiden, which
democracy.
is better, a society where 40% of the population is pretty satisfied, or a society where 5% of the population is very satisfied?
What
you
was
have
the
to
first one?
comparatively give the 60% versus the 95%. What is their level of satisfaction comparatively?
Well, I'm just
And
I'm just
what is it
saying.
they want?
I gave you two choices. Like
no,
we're
but-
never going to get to 100% of the
course
population
not.
is fully satisfied.
Of course not.
So
But,
I'm being modest by
Well,
how
how bad
standards.
Hang on,
are the other
I was
ones,
asking
Adam?
how bad the other
Yeah.
ones were. If the 95% is, or if 5% is very satisfied, the 95% are starving to death. And 40% are very
Yeah,
happy,
but
and
desperately
the
got a problem.
60% are
Well,
like
just
okay. These
that's
are
why
very
I didn't
different
want to be
comparisons to understand.
in honor of Brain. I didn't want to be hyperbolic. I was just saying, satisfied, not like
But satisfied compared to
What?
Okay, what? If 95% are suffering horribly, and then 60% are just
I
kind
just
of
said.
okay.
I didn't say suffering. I said unsatisfied.
That's right. Just generally unsatisfied. You just said satisfied. So I
Yes.
was wondering in comparison to what? So just 40% satisfied versus 5% satisfied, and the other percentage in both those cases is unsatisfied. Well, then
Yes.
40% satisfied, but it depends on what. And what I want to quote the gentleman and the scholar himself, who said, "You can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need."
Well, I mean, I would argue, and I've made this argument before, that even in the democratic situation, like in America, where you have, oh my God, it's like 30% of the population that can vote doesn't even vote. You
course not.
can make an argument that they must be satisfied enough that it's not worth their time to actually go out and try and change things.
That's an argument you could make. I don't think that's why they don't vote necessarily.
If shit got real, if shit really started getting real, I think the election numbers would go up
Or
dramatically.
do you think maybe that they recognize that their vote doesn't matter because they're in the minority?
Yes, in the next election, Trump is going to get even more votes.
I'm just saying, like, I think that the democratic system produces actually a non-activation within the government system, because if you feel that you're within the minority, that your vote doesn't count, then you don't participate, which actually only precipitates further mob rule via majority.
Actually, Aidan, I'm actually in favor of that, just because I think less people should vote.
Well, okay, but you want to get rid of the universal suffrage thing, which was
Yeah, I do.
But I understand that. I agree.
Yeah. Someone
You
just
want
missed
the thing is this is what's interesting to me, Spoon, because you
Was the episodically thing?
you seem to be saying that my position is that you seem to be saying that your position is that you want more liberty, you want more people to have more freedom, but at the same time you're advocating that less people should vote. How do those two things square? You're basically saying we want you to be freer, but we're going to make the decisions for you.
Because
No,
people make bad decisions, and
Yes.
they really do make bad decisions. I mean, this there's so
Listen,
much data on this.
the amount of hubris,
people make bad decisions.
Aiden, the amount of hubris
This
for
is-
you
this
to
is group
say
psychology.
that you can make better decisions
Not
for
me.
me
Yes,
is just
because
insane levels of hubris.
I'm not saying I can, but I'm saying that probably for the
Listen, are you vaccinated? How do you feel about the vax mandates? Because there's a lot of people that think they can make better decisions for
look,
you.
I absolutely understand. I absolutely agree.
So where are you at
it can
with
go
vax
wrong.
mandates?
I'm 100% against them.
Oh, interesting. It's very interesting that you're against vax mandates. Yet you're saying people make dumb decisions and other people can make better decisions for them as individuals. It's so anti-libertarian.
I actually think that libertarianism is maximized under monarchic systems.
Yeah, I don't think it can work in a democracy, actually. It's
I don't think it can
antithetical.
either.
Emo.
Also,
If I Yeah,
I
go ahead.
sent Sitch the link, but he's saying he's not going to come in. but-
Actually, Adam,
Go
someone asked
I have a
me a good
libertarian
question.
thing to say.
Who's
Someone
going to read
asked-
my super chats?
Someone asked me.
Stitch is afraid of me. That's what it is.
Hey now. All right. I get
Somebody asked me a good question. They said, "Did I make the point of removing democracy generally removes the constant political feuding that is culturally rotting the general
That's
public
what we're
that
arguing.
we
That's-
have right now?" Yes.
Listen,
when
that feuding is not going to go away. Democracy gives it
No,
an
It
outlet that's
non-violent.
nonviolent.
It will unify people against the one person that's bad.
It gives it a way to rot.
I don't think so. I think without that, you're going to actually be fighting rather than voting.
Yeah, you're going to get real violence.
Are we not already there?
We don't have that now with Antifa.
Not at the levels
They're anti-democratic,
they
yes.
could be. I mean, what are you talking about here?
I mean, one of the reasons that Antifa is as violent as it is because it rejects democracy.
Also,
Hey now,
you're also fighting each other, by the way.
All right.
You think I'm afraid of you, Dad? You fucking little bitch. You think I'm afraid of you, motherfucker? I'm afraid of shit, Mr. Fence sitting. Oh, I want to live in a constitutional monarch. I want to live in countries. Get out of here, you Canadian. Oh my God.
Well, I can't believe I never thought I'd I'd fight side
When
by
was-
side with a Canadian.
I know. Look, I
Tell
wasn't even.
our
I was like,
friends.
I'm not gonna come in here. Adam is doing a good job. He's solo flying, redeeming himself.
I know. I didn't even get triggered.
Didn't get. Well,
I'm
you,
so proud of you.
yeah, didn't
actually.
get
I was
triggered.
very
Okay.
triggered.
okay. And then Dev is like,
Yell at me.
Sitch is too afraid to talk to me. Okay.
I was just to be fair. I wanted this to be a friendly discussion, and it seemed kind of like it was getting not friendly on Twitter. I'm
No
so happy it
way.
ended up
Come
being
on.
friend-
I was
I
just joking around.
I was just worried. I was just worried it was going to get not friendly. So I'm glad it was I think, even though we don't agree, I think we had a somewhat productive conversation of understanding each
It's
other's
totally
perspectives.
productive. I think it's
Okay.
totally productive. Yeah.
Good.
Well, no,
all right.
you know what? You've actually, it is productive because you convinced me. Okay. As long as the monarch is
You're
a hot
monarchist now?
MILF
Hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
with big monarch milkers, I'm totally on board. As long as that's my only criteria.
So you're advocating that the monarch has an OnlyFans?
Yes. There you
That's
go.
it.
There you go.
It's taxation for the OnlyFans. There you go.
I mean,
There's my
We're getting
representation. I don't need
like the Finnish prime minister was like photoshopping cat ears on herself.
Oh, I
mean,
know,
we're
that's
we're
so
getting close.
weird.
Oh,
That was so
Yes.
base, dude. Moving to
Weird,
Finland,
though.
dude.
Yeah,
It's
that's
such a weird
excellent,
thing
man.
to do.
She's so lit. He's my favorite. That's my favorite politician.
I wonder if she also has abs.
Well, we'll have to find out. Subscribe to her OnlyFans to find out more about the Finnish PM.
Hot.
Emo Hoping for $5 says, and before anyone else, read Hopi's A Short
Hoppa.
History of Man.
Hop.
Hoppa's a short history of man
Is it just hot?
for aristocracy to monarchy to democracy and democracy, the God that failed. Well, I attempted
Well,
to read Democracy, the God that failed, but
Now, speaking of which, hang on a minute now, Adam.
I did. I did.
I know you attempted and apparently got through the preface. Now I have a whole bunch of quotes here and like notes on.
That was
on
just
Hoppa.
me. He got a little bit further. in, I
Okay.
think.
I read your book though. So come on.
What was Adam's book?
The
Uh,
Dictator's
the
Handbook.
Dictator's
Handbook.
Yeah, but that's an actually good book.
Oh wow! I can I be honest?
Well,
I
it's not
absolutely
friendly
fucking
anymore.
despised it. I hated it. I hate his. I think
Because
he
it was
makes-
proving you wrong.
He's a
Yeah,
your
that-
worldview. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that is not
Hold on,
I
hold on.
understand the
Zoomer?
reason,
You're
right?
cynical.
Doomer,
Sorry,
you
of
can't
course.
talk in here because you never read anything ever.
That's okay. Fair enough.
Could I describe why I
Just
don't
kidding,
like
man.
it? I felt like he kept making assertions and then not backing them up. I like particularly as it. I had some major issues with his methodology. Is it very easy to read comparatively to Hoppa? Oh yeah.
Wait a
It's-
minute. So in the I just okay, that's why I couldn't get past the preface because in the preface, Hop is like fuck science, fuck empiricism. I want my a priori common sense assumptions, and I'm like, what?
That's-
How is Aiden Miss Science recommending me this book?
But that is exactly what I found it in the Dictator's Handbook, in that I felt he didn't say that, but I felt that there is like a point, and you know we're kind of post script here.
Mhm.
So there's a point in that book where he talks about Mozambique and about how like well, once they democratize, then all of a sudden all of their debt went away. It's like, you mean after their giant civil war, where they had no debt before the Civil War, or they were in a civil war, and then as it went up to as they started to democratize, their debt way goes up, and then after they democratize, the debt goes down. Once they get bailed out actually by banks, it's like, well, this is why democracy reduces debt. And I was like, oh my god, what a ridiculous thing. Also, he looks at Maryland's 3rd congressional district as like, well, Democratic leaders get deposed all the time. They get replaced by other Democratic leaders way more often than in autocracies. It's like, Maryland's 3rd congressional district is in D+18 fucking district. I knew that off the top of my fucking head. So it's like, oh, so you replaced a Democrat with another Democrat. You are replacing party with party. There are things in that book that are intentionally designed, and I don't know the author, obviously, but I think are sincerely designed to mislead a reader who is not a little bit more informed. And I find that to be suspicious when I see things like that. When I'm like, ooh, you're doing things I don't. I'm
But
obsessed of,
these
right?
you got to admit, these are nitpicks. You're not attacking the core argument, though.
I think I did attack the core argument, but when I also see things like that, in that I feel that the
You're
entire
saying you
argument-
got a little tiny piece of data wrong, or
no, he got massive
wrong
pieces
in
of data.
your eyes. But I mean, it doesn't discount the overall argument.
No. I understand his whole argument. His whole argument is that to maximize the happiness, or you want to appease the people, right? You want to appease the people, or
Yeah,
a
there's
democratic
a
wants to appease the
quid
people.
pro quo that happens,
Sure,
and everybody is self-interested. I mean, they get the psychology right.
it's a psychology, but is that good governance? Is good governance to give people what they want if that's not good for them?
Your governance doesn't even have a selection mechanism.
But is it good again, is it good governance to give people what they want if it's not good for them?
Right. That
If it destroys the economy, but he's advocating for a government system. He's saying democracy is preferable because it makes people happy.
This is the argument for vaccine mandates.
But
that's exactly what you're making.
Whoa.
How?
Wait, yeah, I'm sorry, what? Like, he's arguing that whatever makes people the most happy, whatever they say they want, you should spend however much it takes to get that, using their own money, by the way, to keep yourself in power. He argues this specifically to keep yourself in power as a democratic leader, not a despot.
Well, no, you're not using their money. You're using the people who didn't vote for you's money.
You're using both the people who didn't vote for you and the people who did vote for you.
Well, I mean, he does
as a
make
democratic
an
leader,
argument
because your taxation taxes regardless whether or not you voted for the person, correct? You don't get a choice to not pay taxes just because you didn't vote for the person.
Last Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I have serious issues with some of his arguments.
That was a pretty good joke, actually.
Yeah, I have serious issues with some of his arguments. It is a much easier book to read, though, than Democracy: The God That Failed. Absolutely. I would really like you to read the Kuhnhaupt-Lenin. Please, Adam, if you really want to get triggered, try to read the Kuhnhaupt-Lenin book that we're talking about, because
there's no way in hell Adam would read
it was. It was my.
Aiden, can you not say racial slurs while I'm in the chat?
What?
You just said the C word, and I'm very offended.
You said C slur? Oh, we're talking about that Sunday.
He's Austrian.
I know. She almost said cracker.
Hold on.
I was about to stop her.
Is that going to be the Sunday
Mitch,
show topic?
Watch yourself out.
If you want to understand, if you guys or anyone in the chat wants to, I think, really understand our argument, you should read this guy's book.
What are you here for, Aiden? We want to hear your argument from you. We don't want to read some stupid book.
I've been.
I have laid out
capital.
You can listen to this live stream. You don't need to read the Dictator's Handbook. I've laid out the argument in Dictator's Handbook.
I have laid out the argument.
You can walk away from this live stream and know my argument. How is it, Aiden?
I think you can walk away from this and understand my argument as well. I'm just saying, if you want to have further support for it,
listen,
and by that
here's Aiden's argument. There's this guy that God touched on the top of the head and made him benevolent dictator.
I think God touched him on the pain.
You want me to be as equally dismissive of your argument?
Now when he says you got to get the jab, it's for your own good, motherfucker.
Now
here's the fucking jab.
So that in which case, here's Adam's argument. There's a whole bunch of people who don't know shit about anything. Someone promised to give them some money. give them some money if they vote them into power. So they do, and that man's name was Adolf Hitler. Do you see how these are ridiculous, absurdist, reductive arguments?
Godwin's Law.
We're being silly, of course.
Wait, what's wrong with Hitler?
The Butter Animal for $2 says monarchy begs for tyranny. Down with the king.
Highly disagree.
Somebody clip that and send it to Vosh.
Don Cofer for $5 says Aiden is right. Read some Hopi. Private government is demonstrably
You know, it's not a
demonstrably
coincidence.
supreme.
Is it
Read
a coincidence that
read some
Hopi
Hopium.
rhymes with Kopi?
I
don't think so.
I have not read Democracy of the God That Fails, but I have
Please.
read A Theory of Socialism and Capitalism. Have you read that one?
No.
No.
That it's another book by Hopi.
Hopi.
Yes.
It's by Hopium.
By Copium.
Mr. Hopium.
I mean, I don't know if it's like a different time period or something, but he has really
I've
good
read that one,
ideas on theories of property and really bad ideas on theories of state in that book.
He's an ANCAP, so you're going to get some of that.
Yes.
And by the way,
Yes.
he is not. The thing about Hoppe is he is not a monarchist. He is only, which I don't think even we are saying. I think I was pretty clear about this. That we're not saying that like monarchy is the supreme best form of government that could ever exist ever. We're just saying it's maybe better than democracy, and certainly better than fascism or communism, right?
So,
Um,
based on what?
Based on I think the things that I've described here today.
God.
You don't even have a selection mechanism for whether or not your populace is satisfied.
You mean aside from the wealth that the nation produces?
Yeah, the wealth of the nation and satisfaction of the people. Again, this is if you give them bread. This is a bread and circuses argument.
No, it's not.
Hold on.
So
hold
we
on,
just
hold
give
on.
This
them
is
bread.
a-
and
I-
circuses.
this is-
There
I'm
is a selection
happy.
mechanism. There is actually a selection mechanism. The problem is that it's a far more violent one than in
Oh yeah,
democracies.
you're talking about the revolt.
You revolt.
funny.
There's your selection mechanism.
What,
And
but
That's
It's
horrible.
not nearly as good.
okay, so we just allow the seeds and the roots of corruption to leave within a democratic system because with at least the monarch you can cut off the head and the head which if it is corrupt can be cut off. It cannot be cut off and then remove the corruption within a democratic system. The
Yeah,
corruption
but the
remains.
guy who cuts off the head becomes the king. I'm not cutting
And
off
you-
someone's
and-
head so some other motherfucker
I'm
can
saying
become
you
king.
you have a president and a monarch, right? You cut off the head of both. Let's say both are horribly corrupt. You cut off the head.
Well,
You
wait, hold
become-
on.
You
The-
usurp their
yeah.
power in either case. The power structure underneath remains in the democratic system.
There is a problem here is that you're assuming if the head is cut off the monarchy that another monarchy is going to be instituted, which, I mean, if we look
I'm
at
not
recent
gonna-
history,
Yeah.
that's not the case.
Yeah.
It generally in
In past history, yes, but in
But,
recent history, that's not the case at all. Usually it's
Well, yeah, right,
communism
right.
or fascism or something crazy.
In recent history, monarchy and democracy, when its head is cut off, has been
Right.
replaced with fascism and communism.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that's not really a good revolt mechanism for fixing corruption.
That's why I'm saying it's not a. And because of that, there's just to reiterate to make this very clear, if this is not been absolutely clear because maybe it hasn't been. The diffusion of responsibility is such that in a democratic system, if you fuck up, you can just leave. Which means that the democratic elected leader is not incentivized to not fuck up because they can just leave. If the
They don't,
monarch
but they
fucks
don't
up,
want to
they
leave.
get
though, Aiden.
killed. What?
Well, hold on.
Wait,
but
It's
but
not
they
a
can
you're
if
not
they
just-
fuck
Well,
up.
hold on. Wait. When you say if someone fucks up in democracy, that's defined
Just leave.
completely differently than someone fucking up in a monarchy.
How so?
Because in a democracy, fucking up means, oh, your voters don't like you because you did something they didn't like or you didn't do what you said you were going to do.
Uh-huh.
Fucking up in a monarchy means you pissed off the people that maintain your power base under you. So these
That's
are
the same
very
thing.
those are not the same. Well, they're the same thing in the that's the problem is that in the
the same
democracy
thing.
the people that elect you have the power over you as opposed to the nobles under you who
You-
their goals are not necessarily aligned with the people, which is what Adam has been saying
Yeah,
this entire
totally.
conversation.
I feel like there is a fundamental sort of disconnect that we still haven't been able to really mitigate here, which is that it seems you, Adam and Sedge, both agree that who matters to the monarch is only the noble.
It's only
Correct.
whoever solidifies their power.
Yeah, it's
But-
only the
Which is the
person
Which
who's
nobles.
is
gonna power.
God.
Yeah, but they don't. The monarch doesn't have.
It's
well,
not God.
The butter
because-
amble for
Wait,
the
wait,
butter
wait.
amble for hold on one second.
Are
The
you
butter
gonna just
amble
move
for
on?
$2. If we don't agree God exists, no one gives king power.
That God, no one,
Okay.
no, there's none of the nobles are going to say, "Oh, you know, the king, they're really fucking me over here. I'm losing all my money because they're doing something that's beneficial for the realm." But you know, God appointed them, and I'm a big fan with the G guy, so I'm not going to go try to overthrow him.
This is
Doesn't
antithetical
your
to what everything I've
president swear an
argued.
oath under God as well?
Yes, they swear an oath to God as well. And by the way, so do American.
It doesn't, but that doesn't answer what. That doesn't
And
have
do
anything
not
to do
all
with
Americans
what I was responding to.
under God.
That doesn't have anything to do with what I was responding to.
Sorry, we got.
You're saying that I was saying that the power derives from the nobles and the whoever keeps them, you know, physically, whoever pays the army, basically, and whoever pays the power structures. And you said no, their power derives from God. And I'm saying,
I
okay,
think-
but that's a paper shield. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's more the legitimacy.
I think it's a claim of legitimacy. Again, the difference is, I would say, is that and this is, again, you can argue against this. I think it's a very arguable position, but this is the argument, such as it is that in the case of the monarchy, they are the state. They don't have to be questioned because I am Spain, I am France. That was the terminology and the way that was said by the monarch. So comparatively, you would say, I am the president of France rather than I am France. These are differences in terms of their perception.
Yeah, but
power.
how is that beneficial, I guess?
Yeah, makes no difference.
I'm just saying it's the way it's a difference in how it's perceived by people and the way in which that relates to the public.
That's true, but it doesn't
I am
defend
the
you
Senate.
from being
Yeah,
overthrown.
I knew that was going to come up. I fucking knew it. And by the way, only Sith deal in absolutes, because I knew it was going to be the fucking
Only
thing.
a
Like,
monarchist
all
deals in
monarchs,
absolutes.
and dictators are the same thing. And I was so ready to say like, oh, they Sith deal in
I
absolutes.
don't
all that
I don't
autocracy
understand.
shit.
Like, in order for your system to work, Aiden, you literally have to have like genetically modified human beings, because
Have you
the
seen
human
Dune?
beings, normal human beings are just, they're not going to be. There's a wide variety of there's a wide
complete
diversity
idiots.
in human. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like, that doesn't matter.
Well, I would say that Kunad Levin does talk about this a little bit, but it does appear that well, we all know what happens when monarchs inbreed a whole bunch, you know, not good things.
They produce
Correct.
11 fingers.
Spoon, I'm
Targaryens
curious.
and coins.
Spoon, you've said this, you've made this argument a couple times that people are complete idiots. And I'm super curious. I've noticed sometimes people measure IQ by how much someone agrees with them. And
I
I'm
don't care.
curious, like, what distinguishes you from the idiot category?
Basically, for the voting argument, it was like means testing.
No. Just, I mean, have you had an IQ test? Are you?
He's not talking about IQ. He's talking about means
Do you
testing.
have a PhD?
What's
or
your
something
IQ,
that-
Spoon?
yeah,
You
yeah.
tell us.
Dude.
No, it's funny.
Wow,
It was
this
just,
is
Well, I mean, I'm
gotten
just, I like to
very
look at objective.
environmentally deterministic here. All of a sudden.
I like to look at objective metrics, and you've
Yeah, but-
said
yeah,
a
but okay,
lot
but
of
like,
people are
okay.
complete idiots, but you
I've also said a lot
are
of
the
more
one
complicated idiots.
you are the one with the position
I said
Hold
that
on.
not a lot of people have.
Wait,
I,
wait a minute,
I've
wait a
got to
minute,
go soon, so if you
I'm
do want to do
just
super chats while
curious.
I'm still here,
Oh, just
I'll
sorry,
do. I'll
sorry.
do
just
so.
super
I can do
It-
some
it-
super
it-
chats.
it-
and then I'll
it
read
is-
my
okay.
script, and none of you
Okay,
can
let's say-
escape from it.
it is more of a jokey thing, but would you not be comfortable if someone said, in order for you to be more responsible with your vote that is better, it would be better for society to be means tested in a way that is better for the electorate?
Listen, I am not presumptuous enough to think that I can decide what is best for society.
But you do
I
as
believe
a part
voting.
of the,
I
participating in a
believe
democratic
voting, Aiden. I believe voting is me deciding what is best for me. And everyone
what if
goes to
what
the
you want is
polls
expensive
and they
somebody else?
decide. Everyone goes to the polls and they decide what is best for them. And that's how voting works. It's like a power sharing arrangement. You know, some people want universal health care. Some people want abortion to be illegal. Okay. So different people want different things. I don't know what's best for society, but in a democracy, I at least know that a large number of people are getting people working towards the policy prescriptions that make their lives feel meaningful. And
But
that seems better than all of us working towards the policy prescriptions of some monarch.
Okay, but what if the voting population was smaller?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, right. So so we're arguing against universal suffrage. We get into that.
Oh, no.
If the voting population is smaller, listen, people are still going to vote for the policy prescriptions that are good for them. So if the voting population is smaller, that smaller number of people, landowners, are going to vote what's good for them.
There's multiple forms of restricted suffrage. It's land ownership, military service, public service, etc.
If only men can vote, they're
Or
going
there
to
could
vote
be
what's good for them.
plurality of voting for
Don't
citizens.
get into this because
There could be enfranchisement lottery. There could be an epistocratic veto of democratic decisions. The government by simulated oracle, which is required knowledge testing. Although then you have to ask who makes the test.
If only vaccine manufacturers can vote, they're going to vote what's good for them.
But this is not what an epistocracy is.
I don't.
We've been into the discussion of epistocracy, which is unrelated, although I think is somewhat related.
No, I've seen lots of people on like the libertarian right talk about how they want to restrict voting to certain classes. I kind of know what you guys are talking about. I fundamentally disagree with all of it, though.
The reason why I would suggest it is because if you are not, I'm going to say things I probably shouldn't say. Can I say the things I don't want to say about voting?
Say something offensive. Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that. All right. I do believe in the
vote.
epistocratic voting system. I believe that the way you should vote is by restricted suffrage, land ownership, military service, public service, and government by simulated oracle.
The logic behind that, as I understand it, is that if you don't have
and that would
any
be
kind
fine
of
with
buy-in,
enfranchisement lottery, by the way, is included.
if you don't have any kind of buy-in to society, if you don't own a business, if you're not serving the military, if you don't have some kind of stake, then you're just going to basically you're going to be more irresponsible with your vote. That's kind of
there's a problem with that theory.
As the person that I put, what's that Indian guy sent you in the beginning, Adam, that I asked you to play. He said the government by the people for the people, but the people are retarded. I mean, that's the basic argument.
The problem with that though is that
I'm being facetious, by the
way. If only people with quote unquote the buy into society can vote. Obviously, they're going to keep voting for policies that are going to help them, and they're going to want to limit basically their power. So they're going to keep the other people out of. We want to restrict other people.
Precisely, which is the problem with voting, which is ameliorated by having a monarch.
Hold on. They're going to want to restrict other people's ability to vote. And basically what you're creating a system is that where people who are not already bought into society have no incentive to buy into society because you're making it even harder and harder for them. And this is the problem with having noble classes and serf classes in this caste system. I agree. If people can't move up in society, you're not incentivizing you're not incentivizing investment. You're not incentivizing people to actually go out there and start businesses and to run things and to buy things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I disagree. If the buy-in to, so first of all, I don't necessarily agree with voting as an idea. From this argument that we're making, from the monarchic perspective, voting would not be a part of it at all. Okay.
I thought we were talking about. But we're not talking about monarchy. We're just talking about
moving outside of that. Just to delineate from the previous argument I was making. In this system, I think if we were talking about how you did have some restrictions on voting, of being a landowner, of being a what were my military service, public service, soldier. Simulated vote, or a government by simulated oracle, which is taking a test. I think that would incentivize people because if it's like, well, if you want to have the franchise, then you should start a business. You should try to.
Yeah, you would.
Right. No, I
don't quite get that one.
But do you understand?
I understand exactly.
If you want to have the franchise, then you would want to get more invested into the society rather than just being given the right, which you can squander. Essentially, you can squander it by voting for nobody, or you can squander it by not voting, or you can squander it by voting for somebody who's going to just give you the most.
I understand completely what you're saying, but my counter to that is, why is property in California so expensive?
Because there's a lot of people there, and the
No.
zone restriction.
Ah,
Yeah, there
zone
you go.
restrictions. Okay.
Guess who's voting for those zoning restrictions?
Who's voting for all these zoning restrictions? The people that own property, because they want their property values to keep increasing. And
Yeah.
so if
Thank
you're
you
going to
for
build,
explaining how voters do not necessarily make good decisions for the populace.
no,
Well,
they
if
make
you're not
exactly.
gonna
That's
vote-
the wait. That's the point. They make
That's the whole point.
they make decisions based on their own self-interest.
And thank
so
you for
if you
making the
base-
monarchist argument.
Wait, if you base voting on something like property rights, okay, that means property is going to be even more expensive and even more valuable than it is now. And the price is just going to keep going up, and people are going to keep voting in policies to make the price keep going up.
Yeah,
So you're limiting, you're creating an incredibly
that's
strong
why I'm-
artificial
Again,
limitation.
that's
of voting.
why I've moved
There's-
away from the limited voting argument into the monarchic argument.
Okay, well, I was
Because
just
I don't
stressing
want-
that
I want-
one.
Yeah, yeah,
specific
I want
that's true.
all people to be completely equal under the law, and I think the best way to maximize equality is to have no voting. Honestly,
there's a-
How is it
more-
not to have everyone voting though?
There is a more direct argument for everyone voting, and that is if the state has the monopoly on force, there is some kind of moral imperative that you have some say in how that's used.
Right, exactly.
True.
again,
Jab Slam for
Yeah.
$2 says, reminder, I got Doomer on EFAP and monarchies are gay.
wow,
True.
Wow. Here first.
I'm
Can I
personally
just
offended.
point out one thing that Fitch said that
Yes.
is sometimes true, but not always, is that you're assuming that the person who's voting for his own self-interest, it doesn't also have a benefit for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Well,
one
it
thing.
can.
It can.
It can.
It always can.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. but that's just-
Every action can actions can be good for me, good for society. They can
Yeah.
be bad for me, bad for society. But where things
Precisely.
get a little complicated is where they're good for me and bad for you.
yeah.
But you know,
When
if
it's
I
fair.
can
Often
vote,
you get the
if I
majority
can
voting.
vote and you can't, consistently they're going to get better for me
But when
and worse
Mhm.
for you.
But
Mhm.
may I extrapolate upon that? When the majority is when you have a democracy and therefore the majority rule, which is what it is majority rule, they will want to vote in ways that restrict and minimize the capacity for the minority to get ahead, essentially to maintain a permanent minority. That is what we found in the history of America, for example. Do you know what I mean? It's only in recent years that we've had any
Yeah,
kind
but
of moves.
your situation literally makes it worse. Your
I
situation
disagree.
makes the minority everyone
Yes,
because
everyone is
nobody
equal
gets to
because
vote.
Everyone equal under the law.
When no one can vote, everyone can vote.
But it's not everyone can vote. It's that everyone
This
is
is
equal under the law.
ridiculous.
If your concern is really equality, which by the way, equality is not something that the founding fathers were very fond of, as I previously explicated at the beginning.
Who's arguing for equality here? When did
Every
I come
Democrat
into this
ever.
debate?
It's a Democrat
When did I
argument.
come into this debate? And I'm the guy who said, listen, people are voting their own self-interest. My argument revolves around people being self-interested actors, all of them. That's unavoidable.
But we were talking about equality, not equity, by the way.
Listen, I didn't bring up equality or equity.
Okay. All right, fine. Sorry.
I mean, I talked about 40% of people being satisfied. Okay.
Mhm. Well, I mean, the equality argument's a bad argument.
Yeah, we are
Yeah, because you'll always
actually
get
not
it.
arguing for that. We're
No,
arguing that
you
equality, that
said-
equality limits liberty.
You said no. You said when no one can vote, everyone like that makes everyone equal because no one can vote.
Yeah,
That's
and they're
not
all
a
equal.
good
in
argument.
they're all equal in their liberty.
Yeah, but that's like okay. Well, if we put rocks on everyone's back, no one is strong, so everyone's
If
equal.
everyone
Like,
is a
that's not-
slave, no
I
one's
don't
a
think
slave.
that's
No,
a good
no,
way of
making the Harrison
conceptualizing
Burger-
your argument.
Well, I'm not making the Harrison Burger argument.
It sounds like you are.
Instead, I'm actually making the opposite. Is because when there's no limitations, you're not saying that like one person is better than the other. You're not saying that some people can rise to power over others, because that is the case within democracy. Let's be honest. If let's just say you rolled the fucking dice. How many of us are going to run for president? None of us. Just saying. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you guys are.
Wow,
I'm-
how do you? Yeah, jeez, I'm
Yeah.
thinking
maybe-
going 2024. Why do you think I was
Go
betting
for it,
against
Seth.
Adam for Trump?
But-
I'm gonna vote. I'm
I
gonna
was-
run
I
for
was gonna run
Republican.
The
for office
reality
because I
is
said
the
this when I was
vast,
hitting
vast,
earlier.
massive majority of people are not going to run for office. In fact, who is incentivized to run for office? It's people who want to prioritize and maximize their own power. Those are going to be people who run for office, and the people who will win are those who are most disingenuous. So, as a result of that, I think that what you get in a democratic
just-
system
listen,
are the most
Aiden.
corrupt and most corruptible people. even
Aiden,
if they are not corruptible, they're
Aiden,
not corrupt
let's-
inherent. The altruist is corruptible by nature
Aiden,
of this
Aiden.
status.
Let's dig in a little bit to exactly what you're saying. You're saying that person is disingenuous, and I agree with you to some extent, but that is why there is this selection mechanism, because they promise a policy proposal and they either deliver that policy proposal or they don't. So it doesn't matter how disingenuous they are, because if they
It
don't
does.
deliver it, you vote them out of office and
No, you
move
don't.
on.
They just say, I got caught up in bureaucracy. I wasn't able to do it. I'll do
So
it next time.
if they can
It happens all
convince,
the
if
time,
they
though.
can convince you that they're going to continue to work on that policy proposal and they're getting closer, and you vote for them again, that's not you,
I don't
you're-
understand how the monarch solves the problem at all that you bring up.
that's
Because the monarch can just do it.
No, but Adam is saying is that the elected politician is incentivized to maintain his own power structure, to do what the people
Sure.
want, and the monarch has no incentivization to do what the population wants at all.
yes.
No, that's not true. The
Why would
monarch
they?
Okay. The monarch would be incentivized to do what the people want if what the people want is for their own best interest. He's not incentivized to do so if such a decision is bad for their own best interest. And because people have a limited capacity to understand statesmanship, because they're not. Don't just laugh. Don't just laugh, Sitch. Don't just laugh.
It's hilarious.
Make me laugh, dude.
No. Why you didn't answer
Here's
my? I said
what
why
you're-
would? Okay, say wait.
I'm
Say
trying to get there.
say the masses. Okay,
Okay.
we'll just very simple. Say the masses come up with a magical healthcare plan that is
Yeah.
in their own self-interest. Why would a monarch give a fuck? Why is that in? Why would he care what they want?
Because they're his wards. If you want me to finish my script, I'll finish my script. I have this script.
What does that? What does that
Script done.
mean? I don't know what
Because
that means. They're his wards.
I kind of get it.
They
I
are.
already know
They
the
are
problem
his
with
children. They are.
Yeah.
He is designed to take care of them.
it.
Don't you
Aiden,
feel
hold on,
don't you
Aiden.
feel
I have
empowered
to
now,
go.
Sid?
I have to
Daddy
go.
monarch, you have to.
Let me.
You guys are gonna get
jump
so
in
mad
here.
at my script. That's why I want to.
Yes,
Get into it.
Dev.
Let me jump in here because I have to go.
Sorry, Dev.
No problem.
Follow
The
Dead
problem,
Tropic on Twitter.
the big problem with this argument is that simply giving somebody responsibility does not mean that they will be
Totally.
responsible.
Oh,
So you can
great
say, "Oh,
point.
it's the monarch's children." There's no reason he will care.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, it's
Unless
his
they
property.
directly affect his power.
It doesn't
base.
matter
Well,
if it doesn't actually matter
Oh my
because
gosh.
no. The reason I care about my property is because I worked and I obtained it. If you are simply born into it, you're not going to care the same way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, and if
okay.
that property is standing in the way of you, I mean, sometimes let's face it, you get an old car, it's like more work than it's worth. You're like, fuck that old
Well,
piece
but-
of property.
Because
But
basically,
why would a monarch be? Okay, just to be clear, you're suggesting, Dev, that the monarch would be a gambler because he's born into wealth. Why would the monarch be? Let me put it in this perspective. Okay, you go to Vegas, and have any of you guys been to Vegas before?
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Hell yeah!
Mhm.
So when you go to Vegas and you show up, you walk into the Flamingo or whatever.
Mhm.
What do? Oftentimes, you roll up, you get a hotel room. They give you a bunch of chips. Do they not? That's not really your money, is it? It's technically your money because they gave it.
they
to
only
you.
get. That's only if you're rich. You don't just walk in and get
Are
free
you
chips.
joking?
Yeah.
I got the cheapest fucking room at the Flamingo, and they gave me chips to go spend at the casino.
I like the
Yeah.
Vegas example. Ask me
Yeah.
about my
Wait,
gambling
because that's what they
habits.
want. They
Let
want
me
you to
finish.
spend.
Let's do the
Wait.
let's do the Vegas example if I may continue.
Wait a minute. That they give you the chips because they think you'll blow through them and spend your own money.
And spend your
Yeah.
own money, right? And spend your own money.
So it's a way to trick you.
precisely.
How
But
is?
the,
Yeah, how's this?
if I may continue my example,
Yeah, okay.
please. The monarch is not prone to be a gambler, such as a Democratic leader is prone to be a gambler, because the Democrat leader is essentially working off of the fact that they are working on the state's chips that have been given to them via their temporary position of power. The monarch, I mean, the Democrat can keep spending the state's money because then they can just walk away from the table at some point, right? They can walk away from the table
Okay.
on-
Yeah, I
on-
understand what you're saying. The
on-
monarch
without-
is literally their own
It's
country,
their-
their own money. I understand
their money,
exactly. Yeah,
their
right, okay.
country.
So,
So when they spend, they can maybe get some. They don't get the temporary chips, by the way. It's their chips always.
Right.
The Democratic leader might get some temporary chips, but any chips they spend outside of that, as a result of being given the temporary chips first,
Okay.
they incline towards spending more and more and more from giving that initial
Yeah,
inclination.
I
towards
understand
spending.
completely what you're saying.
It's
Okay.
not their money though.
Right.
When the case of the monarch, if they spend recklessly, if they do things that are terrible for society, for the state, they are affecting their own. They are affecting the state.
Okay. Yeah. I listen.
Their own money. Their
I
own
understand
property.
100% what you're saying. Okay. But
All right. Sorry.
But-
super chats.
okay.
I saw that super chat. from,
But what I say in response to that is, who is the more fiscally responsible individual? The first generation parent who builds up the business on their own, who works hard to make all their money, or the son and grandson who
I'll see
just
you guys later. I
inherits
gotta go.
all the money and the
Guys,
giant
sorry.
wealth and the
You're
big
done.
house.
That's okay.
See you later, Dad.
Thanks.
And
Take care,
all that money that they just inherited that they didn't work for at all,